the Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
Wild. Sounds of hockey.
Well, puck talk.
Let's go, everybody. Let's go. Good morning.
Well, puck talk. Oh my gosh. Above average. What are we talking about again? Well, puck talk.
Let's just say any day's a great day to be a hockey fan, but on the morning of opening night, there's just a little something special in the air, and that includes today. Kevin Falness, Brett Blakemore in for Paul Allen and Eric Nordquist, 9 to noon on KFAN. And that means we're going to do a whole lot of hockey over the course of the next 3 hours. And let's jump right into it. Tonight, the Wild open the regular season in St. Louis. Pregame at 6:45 right here on FM 100.3 The Fan. And the head coach of the Minnesota Wild is John Hynes. He's out there in St. Louis ready to battle with the Blues. John, Kevin Falness, good morning and welcome to day one of the regular season.
Yeah, good morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. What a training camp it was. What a preseason it was. You're a guy that loves to teach. You love the training camp. I heard you just barking orders yesterday during practice. I mean that in the most respectful way possible. But I know you enjoy that aspect of it. But are you happy that day one is finally here?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think when you go into training camp, it's really an opportunity. I think to instill the structure you want to play with, the mindsets, the identities, and it's nice because you have probably the most opportunity throughout the NHL season where you can really practice and push the guys, and you have the time to be able to do those things day in and day out. So I think we've taken advantage of our opportunity in training camp. I think the players have pushed themselves and have made the camp intense by their work ethic and their willingness to put the work in and day out. And then now it's really exciting, right? We get to the end of we're prepared, which is a good feeling. But now you get to go and compete for real, so it's an exciting day. What's special about opening night? Well, yesterday was like Christmas Eve, and today's like Christmas Day, right? The anticipation to go. It's the start of a new journey. It's the start of a new season. We're competing for real now, with the standings. So that's what makes it all exciting. You put all the hard work in the off season and the training camp, and now the regular season journey begins. So it's exciting. I know you're excited for the home opener come Saturday when the Wild open up against the Columbus Blue Jackets, first of 41 games on home ice. But tonight you're in St. Louis. Tom Reed's theory is opening on the road takes the pressure off the visitor. It puts it on the shoulders of the home team. Do you buy into that? Why don't we try and redial Mr. John Hynes? I got you. We got you back. I got you. Yeah. I was just talking about opening on the road. It takes a little pressure off the visitor. Do you buy into that? I think each team, the home team has a lot of, there's a lot of things that go around it. Usually they have they come in on the carpet and there's a lot of fanfare and things like that. I think when you come in as a visiting team, it's no different than any other road game. But, I think the challenge for both teams in game one is I think there's going to be a lot of emotion. There's going to be a lot of juice in the game. So I think it's having the right focus and coming out playing fast, playing on our instincts and doing the things that make us a strong team. I don't know how far into the weeds you want to get with your lineup decisions, but looking at practice yesterday, it looked like the rookie Hunter Haight will make his NHL debut tonight in that center ice position on the fourth line with the absence of Nico Sturm. Can you declare he's ready to make his NHL debut? Yeah, we have just a couple of decisions to make. Like, we're at the rink now. The players will be over here in a little bit. We'll have a morning skate, so we just we'll make a couple final decisions here probably within an hour.
Whether Haight debuts or not, what did you like about him in training camp, and what have you heard about his resume coming into what promises to be a promising career, whether it begins tonight or not?
Yeah, Hunter came in. He had a really good camp. I think last year. He had a good season in Iowa. As a young player, I think a 20-year-old, he scored 20 goals. But probably more importantly, he played in every situation. He played the power play, played on the penalty kill. He's got a great competitive nature to him. He's a smart player, and he came into camp. He looked strong. He moved well. We used him in a lot of different situations, and he played well. So it's nice when you have a player that's his second year pro has come in and pushed in training camp for an opportunity to play.
Yeah, those young faces pushing for playing time within your system. Bill Guerin did make a couple of tweaks to the lineup and bringing in Tarasenko and Nico Sturm. But for the most part, his busy work was signing those extensions. Kaprizov, Rossi, plus locking down your number one guy. I know the future's bright for Jesper Wallstedt as well, but how important was it to get Philip Gustafsson locked up, and how happy are you for him?
Yeah, it was really important. I think Philip's really grown, and I think when you look at the year that he had last year, he's one of the top goalies in the league. But I think when you make a commitment to a number one goalie for those years, he's got the right work ethic, he's got the right demeanor. You want your goaltender similar to like a quarterback. Just they have it's a very important position. You can't win without them playing at a high level, but getting the team to play hard in front of you, and his demeanor and some of the swagger that he has, the way that he's practiced, like he's really developed into a guy that, we believe can win us games night in and night out. So happy for him and his family, but it's also great for our team.
Talking to the head coach of the Minnesota Wild, John Hynes, just a couple of more before we get him out there ready for the morning skate. Wild taking on the Blues tonight in St. Louis. Pregame starts at 6:45. Puck drops at precisely 7:14 here in the Central Time Zone. Let me go to your top line. Again, lineup decisions to be made, but at least what I saw in the preseason with Rossi in between Kaprizov and Boldy, that trio was electric. How excited are you for the potential of those three and the magic they can put together?
Yeah, very, very excited about those guys. I think that all three have come back in great shape and made strides over the summer in their fitness level, and have come into camp, whether it's in practice or the exhibition games. They've played well. They got a great work ethic. I think they're offensive threats, but they play a style of game that they're hard to play against. They're good on both sides of the puck. They play a lot of key situations for us, so I'm excited to see those guys again tonight.
All right, last one. You're going to St. Louis, taking on a team from the Central Division. This division is going to be a gauntlet. St. Louis is going to be right there in the thick of things. You just know it. What are you up against tonight when you look at a Blues team that, if I remember correctly, you took 3 of 4 against last year, including both games in St. Louis?
Yeah, St. Louis is a good team. I think that they, you see how they finished the season last year. I think they have, some good young players. They play a quick, fast game. They're a good transition team. They're good off the line rush. So it's going to be a challenge. We got to make sure that, we're focused on ourselves and icing the best game that we can play. And I think if we do that, it's going to be a highly competitive game. And, we're looking forward to getting started and putting our best game on the ice here tonight.
To me, you strike me as a guy that's pretty flatline. There's not real high ups, real high lows, at least not what we see visually out in front of us. Is there something special about opening night? Will there be butterflies even though you're not playing? You're just behind the bench. You've got a pretty important job. But are there nerves going into game 1 of 82?
Yeah, for sure. I think every game you get a little bit excited and you get some butterflies, particularly opening night, because you haven't played a game yet, and you're anxious to see your team play and all the work and preparation that the coaches and players put in, and now we're playing for real. But I think it's healthy, and that's part of our jobs. You get excited for games and you get some butterflies. I think it's healthy. It keeps you on your toes, and I'm certainly excited for tonight as well as our team.
John, thanks for doing this on a game day. Good luck tonight in St. Louis. Good luck this season.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
There you go. The head coach of the Minnesota Wild, John Hynes, out there in St. Louis, and we're ready for game number 1 of season number 25, Brett. The Wild taking on the Blues. Again, pregame at 6:45 right here on FM 100.3 The Fan. You're home for Minnesota Wild hockey. Puck will drop at 7:14 from St. Louis. And, yeah, I mean, I know there wasn't a lot done in the offseason in terms of tweaking this lineup, but they bring in a veteran presence like a Vladimir Tarasenko, who only has upside. You also have Nico Sturm, who unfortunately is injured right now. Doesn't look like he's going to play anytime in the near future. No Mats Zuccarello, Jonas Brodin, another one of those question marks going into tonight. But I know you, of all people, definitely love the fact that there's young faces pushing for spots in the lineup, starting tonight, in fact.
I love seeing young faces get an opportunity, and it's unfortunate that it comes at the price of Zuccarello being hurt and Nico Sturm being hurt, but that's your chance if you're a Yurov or an Ogren to get into this lineup. And I really hope, I know they're probably not going to play Yurov and Ogren at the same time, so one of them, most likely Yurov, is going to be in the press box tonight, which does upset me. But, it still is an opportunity, and I hope that they don't, they get more than 7 minutes tonight on the fourth line between the two of them. Because, I mean, I get the McBeckman when Pat Micheletti comes in. But I think a guy like Yurov, who played really well and showed a lot of promise in a league in the KHL that's pretty damn good and is against grown men, it's not college. That and Ogren, who's been playing well in the American League, it's easy to root for those guys to kind of come up and get, because we need depth scoring. It can't just be all on Kaprizov and Boldy in that top line.
Though, I'll say this much, both of them, and speaking of Ogren and Yurov in particular, they had an opportunity to grab a spot. They could have been in the top 6 on opening night. Now, it doesn't matter. Even if you were cut, like Hunter Hayes, if you're cut going into game number 1, that doesn't say anything about game number 2 through 82. You can be called up at any time, and especially the way things work on this team in particular, it's a very fluid situation. So I don't think, you cast a spell upon their entire career based on the fact that they're not in the opening night lineup. But it's too bad because Yurov and Ogren, they were begging for them to grab that second line spot. They didn't do enough to grab it, and so now you got Marcus Foligno playing in the top 6.
I'm never afraid to be out on a limb and be by myself with Wild Talkers, and it seems like I'm even more so out on a limb for this one.
Yep.
I'm not sure that the preseason games are enough of a look to give them. I would have liked.
But they're watching them in training camp. They're watching them. It's more than just those games that you saw them in the preseason.
I understand, and you see them in practice, and you see the all 22 or the all 11, whatever you want to say. I don't know. I would have liked to at least see him get a look in the regular season before you just cut him off completely. But I get you can't give up points, and I just don't buy that they would be such a liability at that spot that you would be giving away points to start the regular season. But it's fine. It's not a felony. It's not a war crime. I'd say it's a minor misdemeanor, and you'd let it go.
Things change real quick. I mean,
that's true.
The plan was for Nico Sturm to be your fourth line center. We know how important he was going to be to this lineup. And now instead, Hunter Hayes gets to make his NHL debut. You're going to get to see Liam Ogren tonight. Danila Yurov's day is coming. I just don't know that it's here yet. He looks really green. And it's not even just the hockey, because I think defensively he's not a liability. He just didn't produce any type of a spark offensively. But once he gets comfortable with his surroundings, this is a whole new world for this kid. He's 22 years old. He's in a new country, surrounded by people speaking a weird language, and he's just becoming comfortable with himself, let alone the hockey, which he has to add on top of that. I think at some point it's going to click for him. And it took a long time for Jules Eriksson Ek. It took a long time for Mikko Koivu, for crying out loud. Yep. It's a different world coming over here from what you're used to. And I think once it clicks, they're going to be just fine. Yeah,
I agree. I'm not calling for Yurov to activate his Europe clause and go back just because he didn't make the opening night starting lines. I would argue that we have a lot of guys that don't show a lot of offensive spark, but are really responsible defensively, so you'd fit right in. But still, I understand. I'm not that hopping mad about it.
All right,
Am I wrong?
No, you're definitely right. In Brett Blakemore's world, you are definitely on the money. We've got an action-packed 3 hours coming your way, and honestly, I could do 3 hours of hockey in the middle of the summer, and I've done it. But on opening night in particular, we're probably going to put the brakes on the football, the basketball, the baseball, the lacrosse, the soccer. This is going to be 3 hours of intense hockey coverage because we're at opening night. We made it. We made it through the offseason. I know the Gophers have already played. I know that you've got preseason hockey under our belt. 6 games of preseason hockey. But now what we're going to do is turn the page and get ready for the regular season because it begins for real tonight. Free game at 6:45 FM 100.3 The Fan, live from St. Louis. Your home for all things Minnesota Wild hockey right here on KFAN. A great lineup coming your way. If you want to talk hockey, you'll get your opportunity. 9:35, we got Pat Micheletti. 10:35, Joe O'Donnell, the voice of the Minnesota Wild. 10:55, America's favorite blogger, Michael Russo of The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. And we're going to finish it off the way we've been doing, saluting 25 years of Wild hockey. I'm calling him our Beyond the Pond NHL insider now. Pat Micheletti doesn't know this, but this is the way it's going to be. Cal Clutterbuck is one of the big names in the history of Minnesota Wild hockey, and he'll join us at 11:35 to talk about the state of hockey. So it should be fun. And then on top of all of that, you're like, Falness, don't do this to me. I can only take so much. You're going to give us hockey overload. Well, too bad, so sad, my friend. Because on top of all of that, I'm also giving away tickets. And that includes for the home opener, Saturday night in St. Paul. Wild hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets. What an evening that's going to be at now Grand Casino Arena. You want tickets? This is your opportunity, big boy. This is what I want. It couldn't be any easier. I'm going to ask for talkbacks. You can do the texts, and those are fun. I absolutely throw those at me as well. But talkbacks would be my preference. And we're going to give away tickets because all you're going to do is give me some predictions. Predictions for whatever you want it to be. It can be real. It can be funny. It can be anywhere in between. What do you think of Kirill Kaprizov's season? What are you expecting from him? How about the Minnesota Wild? Do they make it out of the first round for the first time in a decade? What do you feel about Marco Rossi? Is Brett Blakemore ever going to give up waving the banner for the 2028 lineup, and can he live in the here and now? Lots of things for you to jump on board with your talkbacks and your texts, whatever you may have got. But we're giving away tickets. And you want to go down there and see the Wild and Blue Jackets. It's going to be a fun night, Saturday night in St. Paul, as they hopefully push that record to 2-0. So we got a lot of great stuff coming your way. Don't go anywhere. It continues after a break on The Fan.
Before we go, The Fan and 2 men and a junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks for the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is grand. Keyword grand. KFAN.com. Keyword grand.
Hey, this is...
Thank you for those talkbacks. Keep them rolling in, and we'll play those sporadically throughout the course of the next 3 hours, and we'll throw some random tickets your way. I've got a handful. I got to check my pocket. 1, 2, 3. I got a ton. I got a lot of tickets for Saturday night's home opener in St. Paul. You can get your own tickets at wild.com/tickets. Get on down to XL. Oh, gosh. I already did it.
Old habits
die hard. That's 4 times now through the preseason that I've made that slip up. It's hard to get used to Grand Casino Arena. I think it will happen. The problem is, 25 years of saying the other arena name, it's hard to get out of your brain.
Well, they still sponsor the power play. It's not like you can't say
They sponsor the big save of the game and the post-game show. But yeah, it's hard to break those habits. So anyway, keep those coming in. We've got, we'll throw those at you as we go throughout the course of the program. Also got a couple of tickets for Monday night, game number 2 on home ice when the Wild host the LA Kings. Great schedule to start the season. So again, get on down to Grand Casino Arena, wild.com/tickets. Get yours today. I was thinking, I love listening to Common Man, Brett, and he does a great bit with the Wheel of Topics. It just feels like that thing always stops on his golf game. And I think what needs to happen is I took it upon myself over the last few days to get in there and tinker with it. Now, I'm not the most handiest of people. Like when I did change the light bulb on my car, which I'm actually very proud of. Yeah, I had to disconnect some stuff and put some things in and press this button, and I got it in there. And I can do real minor repairs. But I got
if there's a YouTube tutorial, you're in.
That's the best thing that ever happened. That and GPS. Like, I couldn't drive anywhere without GPS, and I can't fix anything without YouTube.
Yep.
So I've definitely used that stuff. I got in there, and I looked up some directions on his Wheel of Topic, and I messed around with it a little bit. Why don't you see what you come up with. I hope I fixed it right. Because I love hearing about Common's golf game, but you don't want to hear about that from 9 to noon. Or maybe you do. But let's hear what the Wheel of Topics sounds like now.
Yeah, we can spin it.
Wheel of Topics!
Boy, what if it just lands on Common's golf game? We don't have anything to talk about. We weren't there.
We'll have to ask him.
Minnesota Wild.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Funny.
It worked. See? And I didn't even use YouTube for that. I got out my wrench and my pliers thingy, and I got in there and I worked some stuff out.
Additional slot.
All right, so Minnesota Wild. I'm excited about the season. I'm going to predict third place. We'll get into predictions later as well. But when I think about predictions, and that guy was talking about Kirill Kaprizov, I want to see 70 games from number 97. And if he gets there, he'll break the 100-point mark, no doubt about it. If I put his over-under at 45 goals, you take an over or under?
At 40,
it's 70 games played.
I feel like you have to go with the over.
I think you do too.
Yeah. He was so electric I think people forget because, you see the texters go, oh, he's injury prone. Oh, so I'm like, did you watch the form that he was in at the beginning of last year? It was electric. It's hard to bet against him.
He was an MVP candidate
100%.
In December before he went down and, ultimately missed half the season. He very much was. And you talk about a guy that was, for the most part, carrying a team. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov, and that's, I think, another reason why John Hynes should have been a candidate for Coach of the Year. Without Kirill Kaprizov, Jules Erikssonek, look at the guy, Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin. Without those guys in the lineup, he still managed to get him into the playoffs. I know it took down to the final seconds of the regular season.
Literally.
To get that X by their name, but he got him there. And I think that says something for what they were able to accomplish. But again, back to the point of Kirill Kaprizov, I think 45 goals, 100 points is not fairy tale at all.
Do you think, I feel like Boldy and him need to split at some point, probably when Zuccarello comes back, because you can't have that, you can't put your eggs all in one basket for that long. You can to start like they will now, and I think it's fine. Don't you think they need to split up eventually?
Most likely. And they probably will, because you're going to have, most likely, you get, again, we're talking in theory, but when Mats Zuccarello is at full strength, there's something special about that bond between Kaprizov and Zuccarello. That said, this can be a real impressive trio with Kaprizov and Boldy. I get what you're saying, spread the wealth and all that stuff. Yeah. And Boldy and Ek play very well together as well. Yep. But there's something special between Zuccarello and Kaprizov. And if Zuccarello can get back to 100% and they can get that chemistry going, I think that's great to talk about, again, in theory. But if something sparks here and you're able to ride the 23-97-12 train, I think you ride that all the way home.
How much did you fix the wheel? Can we spin it again?
Spin it again. I tried. I think I did my best, but like I said, I'm not the handiest.
All right.
Wheel of Topics!
Wasn't hockey a second time?
Kirill Kaprizov's contract extension.
Oh, my gosh. I can't believe I got this thing to work. Common's going to be, I hope I didn't break it for Common, because that's kind of a thing. If he doesn't get to talk about his golf game, I'm going to be in some serious trouble.
There's going to be a lot more puck talk noon to 3, apparently.
That was an interesting pronunciation of Kirill Kaprizov.
Yeah.
But
not foolproof.
Let's start with you. You handle this one. The Kirill Kaprizov's contract. I know it's been a hot button topic here the last few days, especially with McDavid signing for 12.5. Eichel and Kyle Connor both coming in well under the $17 million for Kirill Kaprizov. Did they overpay for number 97?
I don't think they did, because you have to think, and this is purely speculation, you have to think some other teams were talking in Theophanos' ear saying, hey, we'll pay you 19. Hey, we'll top that. We'll go even more. Pure speculation, but that's just what I'm assuming, because that's how good Kaprizov is. You have to play. This is the price of superstars and keeping them on your team. And I get the obvious comeback to that is, look at what McDavid did, and he took a team-friendly deal. I promise you, if they don't win a cup in those 2 years or 3 years, he's getting paid more than Kaprizov.
And he might fly the coop. He gave himself an opportunity to bail out of Edmonton in 2 years if he doesn't like the direction. I can't speak on behalf of Kirill Kaprizov and why it took $17 million at 8 years and $17 million to get him locked down. I can speak from what I think the philosophy is for Bill Guerin, Craig Leopold, and the rest of the group that made the decision to pay him that much. You couldn't afford not to. I mean, that would have been catastrophic for this franchise if they don't lock him up at whatever price it took, just because of the fact that he's he's a generational type of talent. And we see that here in Minnesota. I love me some Marian Gaborik. He's heads and shoulders above Marian Gaborik and what he can do. He's a top 5 player in the game today. And you don't just, if God forbid he walked, that would have been catastrophic. That would have been a wrecking ball right through the franchise. But even if you trade him, you're not going to get anything in return in what he can do for your team. They had to do it at whatever cost it took, and it could have been worse. $17 million is not an easy pill to swallow, but now he's locked up for the next 8 years, and who knows how the salary cap structure is going to go over the next few seasons. It's going up. That's the best part about it, and maybe this will be a little easier to swallow in year 2, 3, and 4.
You want to spin one more time?
You better hurry.
Yeah.
Wheel of Topics.
I really don't know her.
Brett's golf game.
Oh, man. That
boy.
can't be right.
Obviously, I didn't fix it well enough.
Oh, man.
Tell me about your golf
old
game.
Habits die. I got to tell you, I went out with Common last week. I have the Common yips.
Okay.
I can't. I'll shoot mid-80s to low 80s by myself or with randoms. I get out with Common.
Yeah. Too much pressure.
I try to get out on it and try to, I'm telling you, I've improved, and I'll go after it, start duck hooking it, and then it all goes to hell.
Does he make fun of you, or does he have fun with it?
Oh, if I could golf like you, I wouldn't. Yeah. And then the pressure builds.
Yep.
And then it's over.
Yep. I'll tell you this much. I got invited out to Minneapolis Golf Course about a week ago, and I haven't golfed there in like 30, 40 years. It was fine. I played well, the front 9, the back 9. I fell apart. But I will say, I think it's hole number 4 or number 5 on the street that lines I think it's Texas, on your way to the St. Louis Park Middle School. I hit my iron as perfect as I could. I thought I was short. I was 2 feet past the pin. I mean,
incredible.
But the problem is, and again, yawn sound effect, my backspin took me 6 feet to the right. I missed the birdie putt. That was really annoying. So I tried.
I was going to find. Oh, here it is.
Well, there's that.
Yeah, it sucked.
Let's spin it one more time.
Wheel of
Pat Micheletti being very patient as we wait to give him a call.
National Hockey League predictions.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. That
I
makes
can't
more
believe it.
sense.
So I go in there and I tinker. It's supposed to be all wild stuff, and they threw in some NHL. I'm really good at fixing these machines. Your
Not
predictions.
perfect.
How about your prediction? You know what? I watched a couple of games last night, and I was so excited for, I know opening night was 2 nights ago, but last night, the Battle of Alberta, I got to see the other game, too. I sat and watched, I think it was Kings and Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. 2 really good hockey games. Both go to overtime. Both end up in the shootout. So I'm up to almost midnight watching these games come to their conclusion, and one of them went like 7 rounds. I think it was the Calgary-Edmonton game, but just phenomenal hockey, seeing these teams back on the ice. It's hard to pick against Florida, and it's hard to pick against Edmonton. The problem with Edmonton, still, I'm not sold on their goaltending. Problem with Florida for me is Barkov's out half the season. If not more, probably 9 months out of the year. But that's still a loaded lineup. They're the 2-time defending Cup champs. Hard to go against Edmonton, Florida. How about you?
I feel like you got to go with the Oilers. I mean, it's the 3rd time the charm. It's just when you make a deal like that, if you're McDavid, you're putting your you-know-what on the table and saying, this is the time or else, basically. So it's hard to go with either them. Unfortunately, even Colorado could be in the mix.
Colorado's going to be so good.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, McKinnon, Makar. I mean, they still got the same. They don't have Ranton, but Nature's had a couple of goals on their opening night. I mean, they're going to be the Central Division, and then you look at the teams that are coming up from the bottom, and that includes in the Pacific. Now, I don't know that I would think of San Jose as a world beater yet. Anaheim, but Anaheim's an up and coming team. San Jose still has Macklin, Celebrini. I mean, there's some
Vegas. The salary cap just doesn't apply to them because they go get Mitch Marner Marner and they extend Jack Eichel. I don't know where their money comes from.
Yep. And, another team to think about is Utah. Utah's another team that's bubbling out there. So we got to get to break. We're really late. Right. I hate keeping Pat Micheletti waiting, but
no, not that.
Yeah, I know. Keep those talkbacks coming, though. We're going to use them throughout the course of the show. We've got tickets that we're giving away to opening night, the home opener come Saturday when the Wild host the Columbus Blue Jackets. You'll catch all the action not only then, but also tonight when the Wild travel to St. Louis to drop the puck on game number 1 of 82. Talkbacks and Pat Micheletti when we continue on The Fan.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're
playoffs efforts I've ever seen. I honestly thought we were winning it. Parksy was doing incredible. I just can't believe we were Nyquist foot away from probably winning that series. So the fact that effort was incredible showed me that this season is going to be a fun one, guys. We got KK signed. We had a great top line. Our depth is a little questionable. We need the young guys to step up. Let's go.
Man, I love that talkback, except for the fact that they picked an old scab, that offsides by Gustav Nyquist. You really had to bring that up once again. Oh, man. That wound had just healed, and now you just took a fork and you just stabbed it open once again. Unfortunately, that's not a great memory. Lots of great memories from last season. Hopefully lots of great memories coming from this season as well. Keep those talkbacks coming. Giving away tickets. Get your own at wild.com/tickets. To the phone lines we go, and my buddy Pat Micheletti, my co-host on Beyond the Pond, nice enough to give us a little bit of his time. Patrick, hello, good morning, and welcome to the regular season in terms of the National Hockey League.
Finally, right? It's about time. Watched that Los Angeles-Vegas game last night, and a lot of goals scored, Kevin.
There was. Yeah, it's very interesting to watch these teams compete. I was telling Brett, I sat up and I watched both of the late games, including the Battle of Alberta. Phenomenal hockey, back and forth. The Flames battle back from a 3-0 deficit. Both games go to overtime, and we end up in a shootout in both contests. One of them went 7 rounds.
Edmonton was up 3-0 in that game also.
Yeah.
So,
phenomenal.
Go figure, right?
Yeah, good. I do want to get to the NHL, want to talk about the Minnesota Wild, but I have to, since we got you on, and a lot of this is going to be the National Hockey League over the next 2.5 hours. I did want to talk about the Gophers because I flip on my little television this past weekend, and I see you and the great Frank Mazzocco on my television screen. I know it culminated in a split with Michigan Tech, but how fun was it to not only be back on television, calling your favorite hockey team, but working alongside the phenomenal Mr. Frank Mazzocco?
Yeah, it was great to have Frank in. Jim was on assignment with the Vikings, and it's like Frank didn't miss a beat. He hadn't called a TV game in 15 years.
Amazing.
And Frank and I have worked on the radio side together, and so we kind of had some camaraderie and rhythm and all of that. But yeah, it was great. He did a great job, and it was a fun weekend.
That was behind the TV screen on the ice. We see the Gophers split with Michigan Tech. What'd you take from the series?
Well, you never know going into the season, Kevin, what you're going to get. You've got a bunch of new kids coming in, and you look at their stats, and you look at you just read, and it's all on paper. And it looks good, but you don't know until you see it. And so, excuse me, for Minnesota, they're young. They're gonna take their lumps, and they're gonna give their lumps. And so, this early in the season, it's really you have to be patient with their progression. They may take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but that's the case in college hockey throughout, every team, to be quite honest.
Well, but for Bob Motzko, the best part about it, and I know they lost a ton of firepower. I've seen the numbers, and it's crazy to think about the amount of firepower that left this team from last year to this year. But when you're the Minnesota Golden Gophers and you have the ability to pull guys in like Bob Motzko does, you don't rebuild. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but this is what the Golden Gophers are. You don't rebuild, you just reload. So how good will this team be? The latest polls have them at 12th in the nation. Do you buy into end of that? Are they too low? Is it about right, or should they be higher?
Well, again, if you asked me that question in January, I'll give you a definitive answer. Right now, it's just unknown. The good thing is their schedule starting tonight with Boston College, North Dakota the next weekend, UMD the following weekend, and then Wisconsin on the road will tell you something. And it's going to make them grow up in quite a hurry, if you will. So, we're just going to have to see how these guys develop. I mean, they're a solid team. There's no question. They've got good goaltending, a little young on the D core, but we're just going to have to wait and see how it all plays out.
Again, it might be pretty early then to talk about the conference as a whole. But again, going by the polls, Michigan State ranked number 2 behind Western Michigan. Penn State up to number 4. Michigan at 9th. The conference obviously has evolved into a national power. How do you see it breaking down? And I feel like the Big Ten is to the Gophers what the Central Division is for the Minnesota Wild.
I'll tell you what I did. I had to give my power rankings for the Big Ten Network.
Beautiful.
A couple days ago, and I went Michigan State, Penn State, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Notre Dame, in that order. Now, come January, that could be flipped. I think the Big Ten Conference this year is going to be so tight, I don't think you'll see, if any, sweeps on the road this year by any team. I just think the parity throughout the conference is going to be it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that schedule. You alluded to it. I was just checking that out. I didn't realize how big it is coming up. The home against Boston College, and that's tonight, right? Tonight and tomorrow?
Yep.
Followed by a series
tomorrow.
A series at North Dakota, then home against Minnesota Duluth, and you get to see your buddy Scott Sandelin before heading into Big Ten play. That's 3 weeks of really exciting hockey, whether you're in Grand Forks or at 3M Arena at Mariucci.
For sure. And, I think Bob set the schedule up thinking he was going to have Snuggerud, Renzel, Connor Kurth, Oliver Moore. Those guys all could have came back and they all signed. Good for them. So it's going to be a test. But you know what? To beat the best, you got to beat the best. You got to beat the best, and you will learn what you got to do. He'll know more about his team, and so. They could win them all, and you'll be happy. They could lose them all, and you learn a lot and realize what you got to work on to get better.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, it's the voice of the great Pat Micheletti joining us here, filling in for Paul Allen on 9 to noon. Thanks for listening. Lots of hockey talk, and of course, we're getting back to the NHL. But since we're on the Gophers here, Patrick, I got to bring up Jackson Lacombe. I mean, a lot of these Gophers are going to get paid as they turn pros.
Yep.
But man, oh man. Jackson Lacombe is a beast, and he got paid. How he squeezed that much money out of Pat Verbeek, I don't know, but he's going to be a force along the blue line for the Anaheim Ducks.
And the thing is, there were a lot of question marks about him his rookie year. They were not sure that he was going to be able to play, at this level, at a high level, and they just stuck with him. And sure enough, I think it was just a matter of him getting comfortable. And once he got comfortable, did he ever take off? He was just fantastic a year ago for the Ducks, and now he's a cornerstone of that franchise. And Kevin, I think back to when we were doing Beyond the Pond, and I was touting Brock Faber maybe for the Hobie Baker, and Faber interrupted me and said, "Hey, You're talking about me? You better start talking about Jackson Lacombe, because this kid is unbelievable." And sure enough, good for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good stuff. He gets a giant contract. But it looks like peanuts compared to what Kirill Kaprizov got as we make our way over to the National Hockey League and the Minnesota Wild. Opening night coming up tonight in St. Louis for the Wild, game number 1 of 82. And that's the big talker of around NHL circles, certainly here in Minnesota. The worry is put to rest. Kirill Kaprizov is here for the long haul. but the Wild had to pay. Biggest contract in NHL history, $17 million a year for 8 years, while McDavid, Connor, Eichel, they all signed for significantly less. What do you say to those who say Bill Guerin and the Wild overpaid for Kirill Kaprizov?
Well, look at it. McDavid signed for 2 years, right? So he's really given Edmonton 2 years to win the Cup. They were close, and they were right on the doorstep. And I believe Minnesota had to do this. I mean, there's no question, because if they don't sign him, then they're going to trade him. And typically what happens, you end up losing in the trade.
They would have got fleeced.
Go back to the Gretzky trade from Edmonton to L.A. That was not a good trade for the Edmonton Oilers. What they got in return, I go back, I can look it up, but I know Jimmy Carson was one of the guys, and a few others. But to me, that didn't make sense. They had to sign Kirill Kaprizov. It's unfortunate, the amount, but they had to do it. They had to do it.
Yeah, it would have destroyed the franchise if they saw number 97, God forbid, leave like Gaborik did. But even if you trade him, like you said, I thought the Fiala for Faber and Ogren trade ended up working really well for both teams. But I mean, Kaprizov is on a different stratosphere, and to think that you're going to get anything close to Kirill Kaprizov in return for in a trade, you're out of your mind. They had to do it. They got it done, and that's the best part about it. So you come into a new season.
You got to let it go, right? I
Yep.
mean, what's done is done, and I'm sure Bill Guerin and his staff have a plan going forward, and thank God it's with Kaprizov.
It is, and he had one hell of a year last season before he left with injury. MVP caliber season up until he got injured in December and then missed half the year. But that said, he looks fantastic in preseason hockey, looked great through training camp. He's ready to go. Unfortunately, 2 or 3 other key pieces are not. No Mats Zuccarello. Nico Sturm, say whatever you want about him being a fourth-line center. He was going to provide a very valuable role within this team in winning faceoffs and on the penalty kill. And then Jonas Brodin probably in the lineup tonight, but still a question mark throughout the course of most of training camp. That's kind of the cloud of the silver lining here going into the regular season. The injury bug is already prevalent.
Yeah, and they started out the year relatively healthy last year and had a great start. And, which really, I don't want to say solidified their playoff spot, but really put them in a good position to make the playoffs, and they did. Always critical to get off to a great start, Kevin. And unfortunately, it's going to be without 3 regulars. So what does that mean? These young kids are going to get a chance. And, everyone's been begging for these young kids to get a chance. Well, now they're going to get it. And let's hope that they provide something.
It's too bad. I was talking with your buddy Brett Blakemore, Mick Eichel, during the course of the first hour.
What a contract he got.
He did get a heck of a contract. But we were talking about the fact that Ogren and Urov had an opportunity to seal their fate as a member of the top 6 in this lineup. It didn't come to fruition. They didn't show enough in training camp or during the preseason action. So unfortunately, it looks like Urov is going to be the odd man out tonight. Ogren's going to play on the 4th line, most likely with Hunter Haight, and instead it'll be Marcus Foligno elevated to a top 6 role. It's too bad. As much as we want to see these young faces, doesn't sound like they were ready to make that leap just yet.
Yeah, I think, with the case with Urov, I think they're just going to bring him along slowly and let him get used to North American hockey, and put him in situations where he can succeed. That's my guess. I don't know their thought process, but that's what I'm guessing. This is game 1, and he's sitting out game 1. It's not the biggest thing in deal in the world. I think ultimately he will get his chance, and we know with injuries, Kevin, and there's just a lot going on. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
How about on that blue line? You've probably seen as much of Zeev Buium as anyone around here. A star for the University of Denver, or Denver University, I should say, DU. And then, of course, on the world stage doing great things for the red, white, and blue. Comes in, makes his NHL debut during the playoffs last year, and now will make his regular season debut tonight in St. Louis. And it looks like he's going to be paired with the captain, probably quarterbacking the power play. You talk about a guy with huge upside. They are very excited about the new number 8.
I think we all should be. I mean, he's got a lot of talent. He believes in himself. I will say, Kevin, if there's one area that concerns me going forward with this team, is they have to stay healthy on the blue line, because there's not a lot of depth there. There's a lot of youth there. And, that scares me a little bit. I would not rush Brodin back in the lineup until I know he's 100% healthy. We saw what happened with Spurgeon last year. And so, but yes, back to Buium. He's going to get his opportunity. And we have to live with some of the early mistakes he might make, but his upside is very high.
Give me your predictions for the Wild this season. I'm on record saying I think they finish in the top 3 in the Central Division. I think they make it into the playoffs. I think they, and then who knows what happens from there. This is going to be just a ridiculous Central Division. The Western Conference is going to be a monster as well. And then to ultimately win the grand prize, man, it's going to take a monumental effort. But at the very least, I think the Wild get to the third spot in the Central behind Dallas and Colorado. What about you, Patrick? What are you predicting for the home team?
Well, my prediction is if with a healthy team they make the playoffs. Any type of significant injury to any of their defensemen, or even a top forward like a Boldy or Kaprizov or Eck or any of the. They're just too thin there, in my opinion. So they stay healthy, they're in. Any type of injury, they're not.
Putting the over-under for...
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I mean, look at what it did to him last year. And again, I make the argument that John Hynes should have been a candidate for Coach of the Year for what he did, getting this team into the playoffs despite those injuries.
Kevin, one thing, and this is regarding John Hynes and his staff and their ability. If you think of some of the games that they played last year, how shorthanded they were and battled and won. They don't quit no matter who is in the lineup. So you have to take that into consideration also when kind of looking at this team. They play hard all the time.
Last one for you. Well, actually, 2 more. I want to get back to Kaprizov for a second. We put the over-under at 45 goals and 100 points. I think both Brett and I are leaning towards the over in both categories. How about you? 45 goals, 100 points if he plays at least 70 games?
Yeah, I'm absolutely. Yes.
Okay. What about tonight? They get to open up in St. Louis. Again, I talk about Colorado. I talk about Dallas. To me, that's the class of the Central Division, but that's not a slight to St. Louis. We know how tough they are night in and night out, and I'm sure it'll be no different tonight. What should we expect tonight as the Wild drop the puck on game number 1?
Well, St. Louis might have the best coach in the league in Jim Montgomery. He is fabulous as a head coach. That team they're playing tonight is a very, very solid team, not a great team. They're a lot like the Wild, to be quite honest with you. I think it's going to be a good game. I hope Jimmy Snuggerud gets 2 goals, but I hope the Wild get 3. How's that?
I like it. And if I can make one more, if we're going to make pleas, I would really like to see Ryan Hartman and Jordan Binnington finally go toe-to-toe and just get it out of their system. Don't you think?
Sure, why not? Have some fun.
Absolutely. Patrick, it's always fun to hear your voice. I can't wait till we get back on the air for Beyond the Pond. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some Wild fan lines coming up. You know what? Anything's on the table as we open up the new regular season.
Whatever you need, Kevin, I'm here for you.
Are you on the radio tonight? I should have asked you that with the big matchup.
I am off tonight, and we will be on Fox 9 Plus 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock start tomorrow night.
I can't wait. I will be in front of my TV. I will have my eyeballs next to the TV screen listening to and watching every word that comes out of both you and Jim Rich as we watch another season of Golden Gopher hockey. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That is the great Pat Micheletti joining us here 9 to noon on FM 100.3 The Fan. We got 1 hour in the books, but a whole another couple of hours coming your way, including more trips to St. Louis. The voice of the Minnesota Wild, Joe O'Donnell, joins us next hour. Michael Russo joins us about 1 hour from now, and we'll wrap things up with Cal Clutterbuck, a former member of the Minnesota Wild, now working for the New York Islanders and on their television broadcast. So he's going to be our NHL insider. But when we continue, we're going to talk about the World Juniors. Dave Fischer next on The Fan.
Double B Falness back again. Just want to say, as far as predictions on the St. Louis game tonight goes, wasn't it the last time we played St. Louis, Fleury almost had a fight with Binnington? I feel like we get in Binnington's head a lot more times than not, and I feel like we'll do it again tonight, especially with that top line rolling, young guys rolling, Z William, man in that top PP unit. I think we got him tonight. I'm going with 5-2 Wild. I want to say 5-1, but they might get a cheeser. Thanks, guys.
Hey, that's Eric from Hastings. 2025, the Wild finish with 105 points. Boldy leads the team with just over a point a game at 83, nudging out Kirill, who finishes just under a point a game at 80. But they're both overshadowed by Maple Grove's own Brock Faber, who wins the Norris Trophy. Thank you.
Well, that's the beauty of opening night, though. Everything's on the table. There should be nothing negative at this point. Certainly the injury situation isn't great, but other than that, everybody's locked up. The contracts are done. Bill Guerin's got his feet up, and we're getting ready for the drop of the puck. Game Louis. Wild taking on the Blues. Pregame at 6:45. Puck drop at 7:14 on your home for all things Wild hockey. FM 100.3 The Fan. Keep those talkbacks coming. Those are fantastic. And we're going to get a little open segment here coming up after we talk to Dave Fischer. But get those talkbacks in. I've already given away a pair of tickets for Saturday night. Wild taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets in the home opener. Max Long, enjoy the game. Great seats available, not only for Max, but for anyone out there. Wild.com/tickets. To the phone lines we go. We check in with Dave Fischer from USA Hockey. I assume in Colorado Springs. Am I right, Dave? Are you in the great state of Colorado?
Kevin, I am. I'll be in the Twin Cities on Monday, but home for now. And Eric from Hastings got the juices flowing. Right. I love that, and brought back memories. I used to live in Hastings back in the day, so should be a fun night tonight for the Wild. And I love hearing the predictions. It's awesome. It
is. This is the time to do it. A week from now, a month from now, it might not be as glorious and happy and rainbows and happiness, but right now it's game number one, and like I said, everything's on the table. Same thing for USA Hockey. What a year is coming! What a year it's been, and a year that's coming up. We got the World Juniors coming up. The Olympics are just right around the corner. This is a good time to be a fan of international hockey, but especially the red, white, and blue. Dave.
Yeah, Kevin, no doubt. You know, our country's in as good a shape as it's ever been in the sport of hockey between all our youth programs across the country and everything that USA Hockey does, coaching and officiating, education, junior hockey, obviously to our international teams, what we do at the NTDP in Plymouth. So it was a really fun year last year on the international stage with an unprecedented 5 gold medals and the World Championship play at the top levels, and a chance to follow that up this year really on a bigger stage with the Olympics and Paralympics. And, of course, you mentioned the World Juniors coming to the Twin Cities here at the end of December and the beginning of January.
We'll get into all the details of what's coming up in the future, but rewind just a little bit in the past and how much fun the Four Nations tournament was. I think everyone had high hopes for that event, but holy moly. And I know the Americans fell short, but if that doesn't whet your appetite, not only for the World Juniors, but of course the Olympics coming up in February, man, oh man, Dave, I don't know whose idea it was, but it went off with a bang.
Yeah, the stars certainly aligned there, Kevin, didn't they? Great hockey on the ice, some of the geopolitical forces off the ice that contributed to some of the visibility, too, and to think the championship game in Boston would get close to 10 million viewers on ESPN, and the traction on social media and trending. And, you know, it all starts with the players, though. I mean, the great play by our players, and, gosh, we have just a dynamite group, again, at all levels, particularly we're talking about men's hockey here, particularly on the men's level, some with the Wild now that we will likely see. I'm not picking the team. That'll be up to Bill Guerin and his team, but some I'm guessing we'll see on the Olympic team here coming up in Italy, and just a really fun time for hockey and a great time to gain new fans of the game, which we're always aspiring to do.
Yeah, I think they did just that with the Four Nations tournament. I can only speak for my little corner of the world. I was at one of my kids' hockey tournaments up north. I think we were watching at one of the Zorbas, and I think that Saturday night game that you're talking about, and the bar was filled. I mean, wall-to-wall people. Every TV was on that hockey game, and the USA chants. Everyone's, just toasting each other and having a blast watching that hockey game. I just can't imagine. And to think that it's going to ramp up, because that's what the Olympics are. And it feels like it's been way too long since we've had that international competition. And now we get it twice within about 12 months. I can't wait for us to drop the puck on what should be a phenomenal Olympic series for not only Americans, but everyone that gets to take part.
No, there's not a bigger stage, as we know, than the Olympics. And your stories about the Four Nations, I heard similar things from plenty of people around the country, including our good pal Jim Carroll, was following along there in the Twin Cities, along with many others. But our team, again, we won the World Championship at the top level on the men's side, the women's side, the Paralympic sled side, and we'll have a chance to replicate that on an even bigger stage come February for the Olympics, and March in the Paralympics. And our teams are well positioned. We have great players, obviously great coaches and support staff, and great fans. And it'll be fun. It's always fun, the Olympics. I always love seeing what our fans do. And again, it'll be a little bit different time zone in Italy, so people opening up bars early and getting going and getting on the red, white, and blue, painting their faces, putting on jerseys. It's a fun time, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we're used to it. The last couple of weeks watching the Vikings in Ireland and London and setting the alarm clock for 8:30 in the morning, we're used to this. It'll be no problem getting up early to watch hockey of that level. First, though, you got the World Juniors, and you talk about whetting your appetite. You get to do it right in your own backyard. These guys are on a different level. Eventually, they'll be on that level, because you look at a lot of the guys that make up the Olympic rosters, and a lot of guys that are from these NHL teams, the top stars, have all played in the World Juniors. Well, you get to see them at 18 years of age and right in that time frame at not only Grand Casino Arena, but also 3M Arena at Mariucci. This is going to be awesome coming up in December to ring in the new year.
It is, and I don't know if it was Eric or from Hastings or the previous person to him mentioned Zeke Boyum, Brock Faber, guys on the Wild that have played in the World Juniors, and I don't know, the vast majority of players on the Wild, Americans and not, have played in the World Junior Hockey Championship, and it's special to bring to the state of hockey again. Obviously, having grown up in Minnesota myself, my wife's from Austin, Minnesota, so having those Minnesota roots, that's special in and of itself. But it's the 50th anniversary of the tournament, and there's very few times we get to host this tournament in the United States, so it's a cherished time, and the fans are in for a real treat. You just don't get events like this in your community. I know it's been in Minnesota one time before. There was 82, if memory serves me correct, so an awful long time ago, probably. I don't know if anybody out there listening remembers that, but the tournament has gotten to a much higher level in prominence, and of course our country has won the gold medal the last 2 years. We've never ever done that before. Have a chance for a repeat, and it will be nice to finally play in front of our home fans. Again, don't get the opportunity to do that very often, so encourage people to come out. I know single game tickets have just now gone on sale. World Juniors MN26.com is where you can go get them all day last. World Juniors MN26.com. And not only, obviously, the focus is on the competition on the ice, But our friends at Minnesota Sports and Events, or the local organizing committee, have got so many other ancillary things planned for the pomp and circumstance and celebration of the tournament. It's going to really be fantastic.
Yeah, I think most people that are listening to this, at least, especially the folks that listen to Beyond the Pond and the folks that listen, are hockey fans in this state, we don't need to sell them on how great this tournament is. It's outstanding. And to have it in your backyard, make the most of the opportunity to go out there and watch the future superstars of the National Hockey League today on this level. It's great hockey. Kirill Kaprizov, that's another guy, here with Minnesota ties, that played for Team Russia before he became an NHL superstar. And that's just one example. I remember Crosby and Ovechkin back in the day who played in this tournament as well, right?
Yeah, I remember that was my first World Juniors in Grand Forks in 2005, where those two guys were there facing off. And it's an incredible tournament. I know that probably a large portion of the listening audience is aware of it. I'm sure there's plenty that aren't as well, but get in on the action. I mean, there's an All-Star Mom Challenge at Minnesota Sports and Events that's got going right now. It ends on Sunday coming up. So again, you can go to that same website, worldjuniorsmn26.com, and learn all about that. But it's really a cool thing to celebrate. Hockey moms is what they're calling it, but it could be any adult who fills that role: dads, grandparents, guardians, aunts, uncles, anyone who makes it possible for kids to play the sport they all love. And you go in and make your submission, and they've got a lot of great prizes, including a $500 gift certificate to the Mall of America for the winner. So I get in on that. Youth clinics are starting, I know, October 16th around the state, as again part of the celebration of the sport. There's a big 50 Days Out event at the Mall of America planned for November 6th. We'll learn a lot more about the Fan Fest, both indoor and outdoor, that'll take place during the tournament. And again, we're going to celebrate this with the state, with some of the pre-tournament camps with the 10 teams participating that are going to be sprinkled around the state, and we'll have more on that here coming up soon, too. So a lot of news, a lot of fun. Great precursor to certainly the Olympics and Paralympics and everything else that goes on, Kevin.
Awesome stuff. And I know there's a lot of other good things coming up, including Team USA Night at Grand Casino Arena, November 29th, when the Wild host the Buffalo Sabres. That'll be great. Ticket packs available, wild.com/tickets. The U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame induction is coming up, including Zach Parise, Joe Pavelski, Scott Gomez, some other great names as well, honoring the great Ray Shero as well with the Lester Patrick Trophy. So you can go and check out that at the St. Paul River Center. Before I let you go, Dave, though, I wanted to get your opinion. I know we're talking on a real high level, how things are going for USA Hockey, and it couldn't be any better. How about the sport in general on the youth stages? I'm watching Bantams and now high school hockey with the kids that I have playing hockey, and it's a lot of fun here in St. Louis Park. But again, this is just my little corner of the world. USA Hockey in general, how is it on the youth level?
Well, I'd sum it up this way, Kevin. Back when we were young, a long time ago, at least for me, I shouldn't speak for you, but it was Minnesota, Massachusetts, and Michigan. Really, that was predominantly hockey in the U.S. Today, hockey's played in all 50 states in our country. Last season, there were more players, coaches, and officials. It was record numbers all the way across the board at all levels of the game. So obviously I mentioned the international success our teams had last year, but at the grassroots level, where it really all starts, and the success we enjoy on the international stage starts with all the great volunteers around the country at the grassroots level, helping kids and families evolve. We know the merits of the sport, all the great things it brings to the fabric of society through sport, and it's great. I mean, and it's fun to see how far it's come, and we're continuing to climb that mountain. So many great partners involved in and the NHL, the PWHL now on the women's side, and so many others. And we're fortunate just to have the infrastructure that we do and the passion of the great people involved in the sport, including our great fans, which I know there in Minnesota, they'll be cheering for the Wild tonight.
Without a doubt, lots to love about
hockey.
Hey,
we got the Gophers in BC tonight, too, on the college side, on the men's side.
We just had Micheletti on. He was talking about the Golden Gophers. They split with Michigan Tech last week, but I know that he's excited to see how they rebound, not only tonight, but as the season rolls on. They've had to reload there under Bob Motzko, but I don't think there's any doubt that they'll be fine there in Dinkytown as the season rolls along.
And it's also great to see the new rink open at St. Thomas. We always need more facilities, and fun to see. Again, that's more the turn of the sport, more interest in it, and it will continue down that path, I certainly believe, here as we turn along here over the next decade.
Lots to love about hockey. Best part about it is no squeaky shoes. Dave, thanks for joining us here 9 to noon on KFAN, and we'll talk. It sounds like you're going to be in town this weekend, so we'll see you probably Monday at Grand Casino Arena.
Sounds good, Kevin. Thanks a lot.
All right, Dave. See ya. That's Dave Fischer from USA Hockey talking about the World Juniors. Great stuff. I don't need to sell that. It sells itself. It's phenomenal hockey, and that's going to be a great way to lead into the Olympics. But I'd say the vast majority are not going to Italy to watch the Olympics in person. You get to watch the World Juniors in person, not only in St. Paul, but also on the U of M campus. So jump on that with haste. We'll squeeze in a break. When we continue, we're going to do a segment of all talkbacks. You get them in right now. Brett Blakemore and I are going to sift through a bunch of them, and we're going to give away some tickets for the home opener coming up Saturday when the Wild host the Columbus Blue Jackets. You don't win, you're not out of luck. There are tickets available, and some good ones, in fact, at wild.com/tickets. That's next on The Fan.
Before we go, The Fan and Two Men in a Junk Truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks in the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is credits. Keyword credit. KFAN.com. Keyword credit.
I'm Kirill Kaprizov, and you're listening to The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY.
Yeah, this is Roy from Mayor. Unlike when you go to the casino, we don't need any puck luck. We got Kaprizov, and he's going to have a grand year. Not only are we making it out of the second round, I think we might just hoist the cup this year. Come on, boys. Let's go Wild.
I love it. I love that positive energy. Again, I've hosted Beyond the Pond. I've hosted Wild Fan Line, and not every day is filled with rainbows and unicorns. I get it. But on day number one, it should be. And that's the sentiment coming through on the vast majority of these talkbacks and also on the text line at 64686. Everybody's excited for game number one, Brett, and for good reason. They should be.
There's nothing but hope. Hope springs eternal, or in this case, falls eternal. It doesn't matter to me. I can't wait for this game to start.
I can't either. 6:45 tonight, a little bit later puck drop. Not terrible. Not like we're going at 10 o'clock tonight, but it'll be 7:14 to be exact. I think it's a little bit later puck drop on Saturday as well. I'll tell you what, I'm super excited about Saturday. The Wild hockey aside, I mean, and obviously that's the big draw in the fact that the Wild are opening up the home schedule, but we're doing a kind of a forum prior to the game for about an hour. I used to do this thing called Hockey Unplugged, and we'd go to a bar and we'd sit there with a couple of players and it'd just be Q&A. I'd fire off a bunch of questions and then the fans would get the opportunity. And one thing that we're doing on Saturday night, we're bringing back the inaugural coaching staff and Doug Risebrough. And now what that means is Jacques Lemaire, Mario Tremblay, Mike Ramsey, Bob Mason, and Doug Risebrough, all sitting there at the front on a stage. And we're just going to talk hockey. We're going to remember the glory days and how much fun it was to be a part of that inaugural season back in the year 2000 until, that time came up in 2009, whatever it was. It was 9 or 10 seasons of that coaching staff. And it was so much fun. And the stories that they're going to have, there are some tickets available for that event leading into the game as well. You can find that information at wild.com. I'm super excited about that. Like, I've talked to Jacques, I don't know, half a dozen times since he left, all over the phone, whether it's on Beyond the Pond or it's hosting on KFAN, filling in for someone. But I haven't seen him since he left. I haven't talked to Mario Tremblay since he left. And Doug Risebrough, I think we've had him on once or twice since his time came to an end. But this is going to be awesome to get behind the scenes of what it was like to bring this franchise up from the ground up.
How much money do you think it would take for Corey Cove to be there at the Q&A and ask Jock a question?
Oh, that would be so good, wouldn't it?
I'd pay a lot to see that. Guys.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, it would.
I would love to be there for that. I don't think it's going to happen.
I've got a talk back for you.
Let's hear it.
Some Wild.
Yep.
Christopher St. Paul here. Good morning, fellas. I have a three-pronged question. Now that we have Kirill locked up, what is the status of his durability through an entire season and leading into the playoffs when it's really important to have him? Then, what is the development status of the blue line to help aging Brodeen and Spurgeon? And 3, What's the over-under on how many minutes it'll take Blake Moore to bring up the Packers? Good morning and good day.
You kind of did that to yourself there, talkback guy, bringing up the Packers. We're going to try to avoid them for 3 hours. I don't know if it's possible.
I haven't said...
You're dying to, aren't you?
No, I'm talking wild. It's opening night. Come on.
So the big question is about the durability of Kirill Kaprizov. The best thing I can say about that is the fact that what he's been dealing with seems like it's something that they can wrap their arms around. It's not like it's one recurring thing that he's dealing with. I don't know the particulars. I think it all boils down to when he had to do the splits. He was forced to do the splits by the 8-foot Logan Stanley up in Winnipeg a few years ago. And I don't know that that's ever been something that has been completely rectified, maybe until now. Is that what he dealt with last year? I don't know. Maybe Russo can give us insight into that here in a little bit when we have him on the air. But I feel... I want to believe that this isn't something that we're going to have to deal with for the rest of his career. We know what it was like to live in the world of Marian Gaborik, just an electric player, but his groin apparently was made of glass. It shattered every other long stride. And that was a guy that dealt with durability issues. Just an electric game changer when he was healthy. The problem is, in a Wild uniform, it wasn't enough. And that was part of the reason why they had a separation there at the end. And we know how it transpired. He ended up lifting Lord Stanley's cup over his head in Los Angeles. I'd like to think that that's not the case here for Kirill Kaprizov, but time will tell. I mean, we're early on into his career. If we look back in 10 years and say, man, that guy just couldn't stay on the ice, then that's a conversation that we can have at that time. I think it's too early at this time to say that he's not a durable player, although the body of work says that he's having trouble staying on the ice for a full season. I want to see him get 70 games this season. Anything less than that, and then we can start having that conversation.
I just don't think getting injured and staying healthy is a skill trait. I'm just of that opinion that it's just kind of bad luck at times, but maybe it is. I've read this talkback. I haven't listened to it, but I'm very curious how this sounds.
Okay.
Hey, Dobie, Falness. This is Dylan from Northfield. Got to tell you, the tentacles on this Minnesota Wild season are meaty, juicy, and succulent. What I think is going to happen, the Wild are going to get healthy, stay healthy. 97 is going to take us there. 107 points, division win. In the playoffs, we're not going to win one series, not two series, not three series. It's Wild and Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup final, and you're on your own after that. And I'm Dan Patrick.
That's fantastic. See,
I love it.
Common would call that duckies and bunnies. We'll call it rainbows and unicorns. But again, this is my staunch belief, you should feel this way going into game number 1 of the season. If you're the Chicago, I don't want to bag on another local team, but if you're the Minnesota Twins, you don't have a lot of hope going into the year, especially the way it finished. If you're another team like the Arizona Coyotes before they moved to Utah, you probably felt real down about the club going into the year. That shouldn't be the case here for a Minnesota Wild team that should contend for a top spot in the Central Division. Do I think they'll win the Central? I don't. Do I think they'll contend for a playoff spot in the Western Conference and a top 3 spot in the Central? I do. And if that's duckies and bunnies, if that's rainbows and unicorns, guilty as charged. Because I think there's a lot to be excited about with this team, not only with Kaprizov and Boldy, what you have with the blue line if they're healthy, what you have with Philip Gustafsson, approved the number 1 in the National Hockey League, and then the young faces that are vying for spots in the lineup, and some of them already handed the keys to the car, including Aziz Bouillon, who again will quarterback their power play and for the most part probably play top pair minutes. There's plenty to be excited about with this Minnesota Wild team. And this is the day for it. This is the day for the rainbows, unicorns, duckies, and bunnies.
I think your best case scenario, you're the 2 or the 3 in the Central, and you're going to play the 2 or the 3 in the Central in the first round, and you're on your own after that. But I think that's not a bad place to be, and they were close. I mean, I don't want to bring up the offsides again, but they were close.
That's twice now you guys have done it. I'd rather talk about Packers than Gustav Nyquist and his toe. Drag the toe, Gustav.
I think there's no reason they can't take a step forward and at least get out of the first round this year.
That would be so nice. But again, no matter what they do in the regular season, you look at the teams that are in the Central Division, the Western Conference, and the NHL as a whole. I mean, that's why it's the toughest trophy in sports to win. And Florida was unbelievable, but look at the gauntlet they had to go to get there. They had, the Edmonton Oilers 2 years in a row pushed them to the limit. And if you're the Edmonton Oilers, that's a hell of a team. They're stacked. You think they're a little frustrated there in Edmonton, but I'm sure they're feeling good about themselves coming into a new season with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the rest of them under lock and key. We'll see what happens with this Minnesota Wild team going forward. Again, starting tonight in St. Louis, a guy that's going to have the play-by-play action tonight for the Wild on The Fan is Joe O'Donnell. He'll join us next on The Fan.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to The Fan.
Vikings-Eagles, Sunday, October 19th, on the audio home for...
What are the chances of Billy G going out and getting an impact player at the trade deadline with the extra cap space? Secondly, what are the chances of our young stud defenseman, William, capturing the Calder Trophy? Thanks and have a good day. Go Wild.
Very good talk back. I'd have to look at the rookie crop to realize where Zeev Buium sits, but I'd have to imagine he's going to be in the conversation. If he has the type of year that we all project, and he's going to get the amount of minutes that we all project, he's going to be right there in the conversation. And the beauty about being in the mix for a big name at the trade deadline or even before that, should the need arise, now Bill Guerin can formulate those ideas because that dead cap money is gone and now the shackles are released and he'll have the opportunity to make some noise here as this season wears along. That should be a lot of fun for everyone, including Wild General Manager Bill Guerin. Congratulations to Dylan in Northfield. He had the succulent talkback here early on in that last segment, and we'll give him a pair of tickets to see the Wild and Blue Jackets for the home opener Saturday in St. Paul. Get your own tickets at wild.com/tickets. A guy that'll be there on Saturday and tonight in St. Louis is the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Wild, Mr. Joe O'Donnell. Joe, Kevin Falness, Brett Blakemore back in St. Louis Park. How is St. Louis treating you?
Good. Thanks for having me, fellas. Blues are on the ice right now for morning skate, and it just kind of has that, the excitement, the anticipation of a new season. It's here finally. Great to be back at the rink.
Had John Hynes on earlier, and he actually likes preseason hockey. He likes training camp. He's a teacher. His role as a coach, he's supposed to wrap his arms around that time of year. You as a broadcaster, myself as an interested observer, I don't enjoy preseason hockey. You glad it's in the rearview?
I'm glad that they count for real now. I don't mind the preseason from the standpoint of you get to see some of the prospects. You get to get a vibe for who's playing with who, are there system changes, those sorts of things. But ultimately, especially that last game against Chicago where it was NHL lineup on NHL lineup, a pretty good preview of what's to come, but then the game doesn't mean anything. That to me is always all right, well, let's turn the page and get ready for the opener here. So I'm glad it's here. This is going to be a big game. I mean, I know there's 82 regular season games for both these teams, but, I think the Wild and the Blues are going to be battling it out for a playoff spot when it's all said and done. And you could look back in the early stages of this season and look at some opportunities lost or gained. And, that at the end of the day, these two teams were within a point of each other last year in the regular season. And ultimately, you can't make the playoffs or win the Stanley Cup in October, but you can certainly put yourself behind the eight ball if you don't get off to a good start. And we've seen the Wild be on sort of both ends of that, right? A couple of years ago when Dean Evison eventually got fired, slow start doomed them. Last year, a hot start's what probably got him in.
No doubt that catapulted them to what they ended up needing each and every one of those points in the grand scheme of things, even though it came down to the last second of the regular season. That hot start got them off to a good start because of the fact that the injuries caught up to them as the year went along. For training camp, what did you take out of it? I know the big thing to watch for are the young names and how they're evolving. The big news for the Wild is that Liam Ogren, Danila Yurov at this point didn't grab a spot in the top six. That's disappointing, but then on the flip side of that, you also get to see maybe a Hunter Haight tonight, and Zeev Buium looks like he's taking another step in his career.
Yeah, and, the other couple of guys that you didn't mention in David Jiricek on the back end and Jesper Wallstedt, the backup to Philip Gustafsson. And that's one of the things that going into training camp in the preseason, Kevin, I was most excited about. As you start to roll through the summer, I start thinking about the roster and what this Wild team could look like. And I was like, hey, I don't remember a time where there were this many young players that Minnesota was going to count on to have a big impact. These kids have to play, and they've got to play well. And I'm not saying opening night they need to be at their best. Like you said, they're kind of developing. They're a work in progress. But Bill Garrett has also been on the record saying, like, you don't want to develop guys in the NHL. You want to make sure they're ready. So we're going to find out pretty quickly here if these kids are ready, if Yurov, if Ogren, Buyam, Juracek, Volstead, Hunter Haight, if he's in the lineup tonight. Like, we're going to find out pretty quick when the lights are at its brightest here at a tough building to play in against a really good Blues team. We'll get at least a little bit more of a feel for these kids, and I think that's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to be a Wild fan. These are first-round picks. These are high-end talents with a good upside and a big-time ceiling, and we're going to get to watch to see how they perform here starting tonight. And there'll be some growing pains, but I really think that with the youth that they have and the skill set these kids have, if they're able to perform, this Wild team has a chance to be really good.
John Hynes wasn't ready to tip his hand an hour and 45 minutes ago about what he'll decide with the lineup. But watching practice yesterday, it sure looked like Hunter Haight is going to make his NHL debut, and if he does, it'll most likely be centering the fourth line. And it did look like Jonas Brodin, despite what everyone's been telling us and what John Hynes has been saying, that he'll probably miss the start of the regular season. Sure looked like he was projected to be in the starting lineup tonight in St. Louis. What are you feeling about, and again, they're not on the ice for another 45 minutes, but what are you thinking about the prospects of Brodin and Haight being in the lineup tonight for Minnesota?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Hunter Haight just with the numbers. I do believe that that's going to play out. As for Brodin, kind of your guess is as good as mine. I didn't expect him to be, from sort of limited contact to full contact. In the past, guys have needed maybe more than a full contact practice. Maybe it's 2 or 3 before the coaching staff and the medical staff feel comfortable putting him in, before the player feels comfortable going in. But Brodin's a different animal. He's been like that his whole career, where, he could miss 2 months. You put him back in the lineup, and he looks like he's been playing every day. He's just a special type of player when it comes to that. So smooth out there, so smart, just plays within his abilities all the time and gives you exactly what you're expecting from Jonas Brodin. So it is a big deal, though, for the Wild, whether he's in or out, whether it's tonight or 2 or 3 games. Like, the sooner that Brodin is back and healthy and playing to his ability, the Wild just become such an instantly better team defensively. It's almost crazy. But, again, those that have followed the Wild and are fans of Jonas Brodin, like most of us are, like, they get it, right? Like, he is that important along the blue line from a stability standpoint, shutting down the other team's top players, playing on the penalty kill, breaking the puck out. Like, he just does so many things well. It's whenever he's back, if it's tonight or, early in this regular season, it's a huge boost.
How about Hunter Haight, the potential to make his NHL debut? We watched him last year in the prospect camp. I thought he flashed and showed very well then, and it feels like his star continues to shine. He was the last guy cut out of training camp. Now the injury to Nico Sturm rears its ugly head, and he probably gets an opportunity to make his NHL debut tonight. What have you liked about him in watching him, and even in these preseason games where he scored a couple of goals?
You notice him. You really do. And he's got some speed to his game. And talking with some of the hockey ops staff, like a Brad Bombardier and a Matt Hendricks and Chris Kelleher at various times throughout training camp and during the Tom Kerber's rookie showcase where Haight was on, full display, I wanted to get a feel for that, for a number of prospects, Haight included. And the one thing that I kept hearing was about how he is tenacious. He's got some jam to his game, right? He's going to be in your face. And I think that's something that's going to really help him if tonight is his NHL debut, is just that confidence to buzz around out there, to play in on the forecheck. Everything I gathered about Haight is that by the end of last year, it really earned the coach's trust in Iowa as far as being a 200-foot player. The American Hockey League, as you know, Kevin, is a difficult league to play in, especially for a young kid, for a number of reasons. It's grown men out there. It's guys fighting for their paycheck and for their hockey careers in some aspects. And then you also have the mix of really young, talented players and the bus travel and all those things to go into playing so many back-to-backs and 3 games in 3 days. It's not an easy league. He had 20 goals. And I'm telling you right now, a 20-goal season in the AHL for a young player like that tells me a lot. So I'm excited to see him if it is tonight or early in this season. Again, the injury of Nico Sturm really sucks for this Wild team. He was one of their free agent acquisitions, obviously. Arguably their biggest as far as that free agent signing goes. It's a tough blow for the Wild. They really wanted him for the face-off dot and the penalty kill and his experience. So it's going to be it's a big miss to not have Nico Sturm for what appears going to be like a long time. It's a significant injury that he's going to have something done about and a long rehab process, it sounds like. I mean, John Hynes is not very optimistic about him being back anytime soon. So hopefully a young kid like Haight can fill the void at least for tonight or early in the season. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and another guy that they did get in the offseason, not only Nico Sturm, they got Vladimir Tarasenko. And we've been talking about a lot of the other pieces within this lineup in the first hour and change of this broadcast. How about Vladimir Tarasenko? Tremendous upside. Definitely didn't have the best showing in the couple of stops that he's had since he's left St. Louis. But what do you make of the possibility of him in a top six role in certainly the twilight of his career, but still a guy that I've seen it. He can definitely shoot the puck.
Yeah, he's a goal scorer, over 300 career goals, a lot of them in a Blues sweater. So this is an interesting debut for the Wild and season opener for him in a place he spent so many years, winning a Stanley Cup here in 2019. I'm looking for big things from Tarasenko. If he gives them 20 goals, I think it's a huge win. It was a low risk, high reward possibility when they made that trade. Didn't really give up anything to get Tarasenko this summer, and he's got something to prove. There are people out there probably doubting him after the year he had in Detroit. So I'm looking forward to see what he brings. I think he's going to help out the power play immensely. You have a real shooting threat now on the man advantage, as we saw in the final preseason game when he had a power play goal against the Blackhawks. I think that'll open up some things up top for a Bouillon to maybe have a little bit more room patrolling the blue line on the top power play unit. So I'm thinking big things are in store for Tarasenko. The thing I'll be looking for is how is he moving out there? Is he fluid? Is he able to push the pace on that line with Joel Eriksson, or is he more of just kind of, at this point in his career, a little bit more of a stationary player and just a shooter? If he can give the Wild some pace to his game and find some chemistry with Eriksson and whoever else they eventually find to fit on that other wing, I think there's a big chance for Tarasenko to deliver for this Wild team, and I think they're certainly going to need it. Goal scoring for Minnesota was a big-time issue down the stretch last year. Late in the regular season, the goal scoring really dried up. Now, again, no Kaprizov, no Eriksson for a large stretch, obviously after the Four Nations face-off. So let's see what Tarasenko can give him, but I'm hoping 20 finding the back of the net for him is pretty realistic, and he comes through on that.
To me, the big moves that Bill Guerin made in the offseason was locking up those guys that were hanging out there in the potential of expiring contracts. You lock up Kirill Kaprizov, you lock up Marco Rossi, you lock up Philip Gustafsson. To me, that's huge, especially with that now what's making up 2/3 of your top line. I know from my vantage point, and I'm not there in arena for those road games, but watching Kirill Kaprizov, Marco Rossi, and Matt Boldy working their magic on that top trio, I was excited for what I saw and the potential going into the regular season. All that could change. I get that after even one shift, but it looks like that's going to be your top line going into the regular season opener. What did you think about the chemistry those guys have developed, and how excited are you about the possibilities for these three?
I love it. All three of them were dynamic in their limited preseason action, I thought. I love the chemistry. Rossi looks quicker. We know that he, continues to add strength and size to his frame. So I'm looking for another big year for Rossi, who had 60 points last season. Matt Boldy led the team in scoring, again, in large part because Kaprizov missed half the year. But remember, when Kaprizov went out, he was pacing the NHL in points. So you have the potential there to be a dynamic top line, one of the best in the National Hockey League. The question then will be, what else do you have, right? You can't be a one-line team in this league. So that depth scoring, that second line with no Matt Zuccarello for a while. Minnesota's depth is going to be tested early because of the injuries to Sturm and Zuccarello. And it'll be kind of interesting for me to see who else steps up. Can Yakov Trenyon have a better year? Just a handful of goals last season wasn't good enough. He looks quicker. We know he's lost some weight. He scored a couple of goals in the preseason. What can he give you? Can Marcus Foligno score 15 goals this year? Can Ryan Hartman get back anywhere near that 34-goal form from a couple seasons ago? So I'm really excited about the top line. I think they're going to be dynamic and excellent most nights and probably help carry this Wild team to a lot of their success. But, again, after that, where's the rest of the scoring from? I think that's a big question for the Wild. I hope we have answers to it, sooner rather than later, and this team performs offensively. But I think that top line overall is going to be asked to do a lot, and I fully expect them to deliver.
Duckies and bunnies, rainbows and unicorns. It's game one of the regular season, so everybody's feeling good about themselves. Kirill Kaprizov looked great. We talked about how good he looked on that top line, but he's coming in healthy. He looks like a fire hydrant with legs, the way he just can fend off attackers. We're setting the over-under at 45 goals and 100 points. Joe O'Donnell, if he plays 70 games, do you take the over in both?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a 50-goal season if he's healthy. I don't see any reason why that's not, a realistic expectation for him. He's got a chance to surpass Marian Gaborik for most goals in Wild history this season. If he stays healthy, I fully expect him to do that. He's, on the cusp of 200 in his career, which would pass Parisi and put him top 3 all-time in Wild history. I think there's more records to be broken this year for Kaprizov, and I look forward to him getting started early in this campaign and really with that contract situation behind him, leading this team in the right direction.
All right, give me a preview of game one of the regular season. It'll be a 7-14 puck drop tonight from St. Louis, but it could have been worse. 7-14, we'll take it. Give us kind of a preview of the Central Division collision against their rival, the St. Louis Blues.
Well, we know Jordan Binnington will be in net for St. Louis. They've made a couple of changes in the offseason. Pius Suter brought in this summer. He's a guy that actually had a really good year offensively last year, one of his best in finding the back of the net. So he'll kind of slot in and be, I'm assuming, like in that third-line center ice role. We all know about Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, two of the top guns for the Blues offensively over the last few years. And we'll get our first glance, or I will anyway, of Jimmy Snuggerud. Burst onto the scene with the Blues late last year after finishing up his collegiate career. Had a really good playoff run for St. Louis. Remember, the Blues had a chance to upend the Winnipeg Jets in Game 7 and heartbreaking fashion, dropped that contest in overtime after the Jets rallied to tie it in the final second. So they're probably a little stung from how their playoff run ended last year. Both teams are pretty much regulars in the playoffs over the last handful of years. I think this is going to be, an important early season matchup for Minnesota. One game's not going to make or break your year, but if you can get off with 2 points out of this building and a divisional game on the road to kick things off, I think it really just sets the table for a month of October where 6 of the first 8 are on the road. You've got a couple of back-to-backs this month, including next week when you host LA and then go to Dallas. That's a tough back-to-back. So definitely a big opportunity for Minnesota to get off on the right foot here tonight.
Less than 8 hours until we're on the air with the pregame from St. Louis. Between now and then, what happens with you? You're going to watch the skate, then do you and Tom Reed go get lunch? Are you buying? What happens between now and then?
Well, I'm not buying. Come on. I'm going to jump into Jim Montgomery's presser here in a moment and then get ready for the Wild to hit the ice, finish up a little bit of game prep, and then hopefully get ready for a win.
Good luck, Joe. If you see Gorgie, tell him to mute TV, and we'll be listening for you tonight.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
There he is, the play-by-play voice of your Minnesota Wild, Mr. Joe O'Donnell. He and Tom Reed, all the play-by-play action when we drop the puck tonight on the regular season. 7:14 on your radio dial. We'll get things underway. Pre-game starts at 6:45, and not only are we going to hear from John Hynes and Tom Reed, we've got a conversation with Philip Gustafson. We got a conversation with the rookie, Hunter Haight. It should be a lot of fun to get things going here in the regular season as we make our way towards the 82-game grind, make our way towards the postseason. And who knows, could this be the year they get out of the first round for the first time since 2015? I think so. There's something going to be magical about the 25th season of Minnesota Wild hockey. Go ahead and take in all the action for yourself, including tonight on your radio dial. And, of course, you will hashtag Mute TV. When we continue, we'll continue with those talkbacks, giving away tickets to the home opener Saturday in St. Paul when the Wild host the Columbus Blue Jackets. But on the other side of break, what a treat we have. America's favorite blogger is going to grace your airwaves, Michael Russo from The Athletic, when we continue on The Fan.
Hey, this is Jonas Brodin, and you're listening to The Fan.
Hey Kevin, Jesse here. Super pumped about the season getting going again here. Tired of using the Minnesota mantra of, well, we'll get there next year. lots of things need to go right as far as health and production, and I agree with Brett big time that the youngsters need to get a significant chance to play on a top 3 line. Lastly, what's the over-under on the amount of times Russo talks about your candles in the press box? Thanks, and go Wild.
Yeah, amen. That's more of a Dan Barrero thing, but they're both infatuated with how my area smells. If you don't like it, don't come into it. It's really that easy. Speaking of America's favorite blogger, let's go to St. Louis. Michael Russo of The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. What I love about having you on, Russo, is that Brett Blakemore usually waits till the last second to call the guest, and I'm always worried that we're going to get him on time. He calls you like 10 minutes early so he can have a pre-show with you.
No, he and I had a great conversation waiting for you. No shots, I guess. I thought the most impressive part of that talkback was the guy saying that Brett Blakemore made great points.
Seriously, doesn't happen often.
Oh my goodness! Well, we've been talking. Go ahead.
All right, my first question is Pat Micheletti on vacation? Like, what's going on? Why am I the guest?
No, I had Pat on as well. Believe me. Molesky calls them lifeboats. I've had lifeboat after lifeboat after lifeboat, including Joe O'Donnell, including Pat Micheletti. We're going to finish up the show with Cal Clutterbuck. But how do you start a brand new season without Michael Russo of The Athletic and TheAthletic.com? We had to squeeze you in.
Yep, absolutely.
And mostly because
you got to ask Clutter. I was talking to Nino the other day, and Nino was talking about like when he was traded to Minnesota, how nervous he was that he didn't know if it was going to be a long-term thing. And I saw a podcast with Clutter recently where he basically said the same thing. When he got to the Islanders, he was just freaking out. And then you look at him, turned it into an entire career there, and now he's doing TV there. It's pretty impressive.
Without a doubt, and I very much look forward to that conversation. I was going to say I was going to have Joe Smith on instead, but he's busy. He's the one that actually works in your tandem, so I know that you had some free time, so I know I'd be able to squeeze you in.
That is very true. So, Joe, I feel bad. They sent, I even was thinking as I was walking over here, where they sent two of us to St. Louis for some ungodly reason. And Joe's now sitting in Montgomery's press conference and is about to go in the Blues room. So it's like they sent two of us to St. Louis so he could work and I could do radio. Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate it, and it's an opportunity to plug The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. You guys got all the best writers and all the great stuff. I highly recommend it to anybody out there at TheAthletic.com. Your feelings coming into this brand new season. We've been talking duckies and bunnies, rainbows and unicorns. Everyone's feeling good going into game number one. How about you as you cover this team? I mean, I'm excited about real hockey, and that's for sure. I will say I'm a little nervous about the team and how they're going to start. I don't know. I mean, you have this great start to camp, and you're all excited about these young guys, and next thing you know, they end camp, and they have a really, in my eyes, strange third line with Trenyon Hartman and Johansson, and then you have Marcus Lino, who I love as a player, but all of a sudden he's your second line left wing. Next to it, Tarasenko is just trying to reinvigorate his career, and you have, a really, again, weird fourth line with Ogren, who is honestly only in the lineup because he's more experienced than Urov, but Urov outperformed him in camp. And then, a rookie making his NHL debut, and it just seems like they're an injury away from significant issues here. So I'll just be curious to see how the lines are tonight and how quickly John has to go away from them and maybe scramble things up. I'm excited to watch Zeev tonight in his regular season NHL debut. But same thing, as comfortable as he has looked with Jared Spurgeon, that is a real undersized second pair. And so against a big, bad Blues team, how long can you go with that before you might have to split it up? So I guess my big thing is you have this long training camp and all of a sudden we come to practice Monday and everything is just messed up or changed. And so I'm just curious to see how it all works and how long John sticks with it. And game one doesn't mean that this is going to be what happens going forward. It could all change within the first shift, let alone the first game. But that being said, are you a little disappointed from your vantage point that Ogren or Urov didn't do more to claim that top six role so Marcus Foligno could be better suited in that third or fourth line role where that he's going to excel? Now he's you almost feel like he might be a little bit out of position. Yeah, I agree with you, and I am a little disappointed, but I'm also trying to remember that they're 21 years old. You got a kid in Europe who's just coming over from Europe for the first time. I thought he was really, really good defensively in camp, progressed a bit, but then they threw him in Chicago against an NHL lineup, and he wasn't very good, and that is probably why he is out of the lineup tonight. I thought Ogren was going to do more. He was so good early in camp with Eriksson Ek and Tarasenko, but there's as somebody I respect a lot says, it's very different at 11 a.m. than it is at 7 p.m. And at 7 p.m. throughout camp, he was not good. He didn't produce. He didn't hit guys on the forecheck. He needs to be much, much better if he's going to be on this roster and not down back in Iowa. So I think that he has gotten a little bit of a wake-up call from the coaches here a little bit. But, this is not – and I am – and Brett could attest to this. I am the guy that wants them to go with the kids and go with the kids. And, I know what you're getting from a Marcus Johansson and players like that. Like, let's see what Ogren and Urov can do. But the one thing I will say is John gave them every opportunity in camp, in top six roles, in middle six roles, and neither of them produced. I mean, Ogren had 7 shots in 5 games, 0 points, and Urov had 7 shots in 6 games and 1 assist. That in the opener, that by the way was an accidental assist. It was an attempted doorstep essentially tap in that he missed, and then Hinostroza set up Trenyon for the goal in Winnipeg. So. I expected more from both of them, but I think Urov is still going to be a really good player. Everything is new to him. He's still living in a hotel. I said this on the podcast the other night. I was shooting the breeze with him at his stall, and I'm like, "How's the hotel?" And he just looked at me like almost sad, and he goes, "The windows don't open." But it was just this funny line that like it just dawns on you like. This kid is in North America really for the first time, and he's in this strange place, and he's trying to find his footing. His English is still a work in progress. He brings his laundry every day to the morning skate for Tarasenko to bring home and do. I mean, everything is new to him. So I think the hockey is going to come, but I think some of us sometimes, even as long as I've covered this league, take it for granted about how difficult it is. His family can't come over because of visa issues, obviously, because he's from Russia. He's got a significant other that can't come over until December, like stuff like that. And so it's really, I think, tough for him right now.
Yeah, I agree. No matter what happens, even over the course of this year, the future's bright for both of them. But by contrast, what they didn't do in the preseason and during training camp, Hunter Haight did. Despite being the last cut there at the end of training camp, he gets the first call up when Nico Sturm and you and Joe report that he's going to be out for a significant amount of time. Look at this opportunity for Hunter Haight there, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. He's going to make his NHL debut tonight, most likely.
Yes, most likely. And, I'll also be interested to see with Jonas Brodin, but Hunter Haight was great. He had a really good rookie year last year in Iowa, scored 20 goals. And we all know about how tough of a year last year was Iowa. And maybe he can help ignite a Liam Ogren tonight because the two of them had great chemistry as line mates last year in Iowa when Ogren went down there and was basically a point-a-game player. So I'm really excited to see him. He's fast. He's got this shoot-first mentality. And he's somebody that, honestly, I could see because he was so good in camp, like you can move him up in the lineup. Let's even just say, like, he could play wing. I mean, you could put him on his offside, even on that second line if you're John Hynes. My guess is they would go back to the well and go Marcus Johansson first. But I am looking forward to seeing him play tonight, and he was definitely a bright spot in camp. Scored that great tying goal in Winnipeg, scored that awesome goal as well at home in the one preseason game. So, he definitely came close to earning a spot, and really, unfortunately for Nico Sturm, it is looking like he's going to need back surgery or has had back surgery. We'll hopefully get an update today, but he's going to be out for a while. So this is something else Bill Guerin's going to have to really pay attention to here, because suddenly they're, with Zuccarello out too, they just are, as much as we want to talk about the Wild's improved depth this year in cap space, they might have to, make some sort of external move. And the reason why I say that too is I know for a fact that on Monday when they got the word about Nico Sturm, they called up Jack Roslovic, offered him $1 million deal. He said he thought he could get $2.5 million, declined it, and next thing you know, he signed last night with Edmonton for $1.5 million. But just the fact that the Wild felt right away that they needed to address the situation just tells me that they're going to be really scouring the marketplace for a trade if these young kids don't show that they at least are ready right now.
No Matt Zuccarello, no Nico Sturm, and we thought no Jonas Brodin. John Hynes wasn't ready to tip his hand when I had him on 2.25 hours ago, but I was there at practice with you yesterday. We both had our face pressed right up against the glass, and we saw Jonas Brodin skating on a pair, no contact jersey on, just skating like a regular guy. I think he's poised to make his season debut tonight in game number 1. What does your spidey sense tell you?
I honestly don't know. I would think that it would be more doubtful, but you're right. I mean, the one thing about Jonas Brodin, we've seen him miss 2 months before, get one practice in play. Sometimes we've even seen him hop into the lineup without a practice. He's a rare breed from that standpoint. The only thing I'll say is that, the St. Louis, and look, he's going to have to play at some point, right? The LA Kings, the Columbus Blue Jackets are all hard-hitting teams. But to throw him in tonight, where he hasn't had a ton of contact lately in camp, where he's really started to get it in the last couple days, it's very different when all of a sudden you have Braden Chen coming at you on a forecheck. I'll be interested, but look, he's going to have to play at some point. The fact that they didn't put him on injured reserve tells you that he's definitely close. Because they could have easily put him on IR and brought up another player. And so the fact that they didn't want to have him miss the first week of the season tells you that at a minimum, he's if he doesn't play tonight, he could be playing at home. So I think it's a great sign for this team. And then I'll be interested to see what they do with the blue line. Do they slowly put him in and play him third pair of minutes, which will not be something that is long-term? Or do you throw him right away with, say, a Brock Faber, keep a Boyum with Jared Spurgeon, and maybe drop a Jake Middleton onto the third pair with a Bogosian or David Juracek? There's a lot of options that Jonas Brodin would bring that allows you to deepen up your blue line.
Talking to Michael Russo of The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. A lot of the conversation, not only in the Twin Cities, Michael, but around the National Hockey League, was the windfall that Kirill Kaprizov fell into. $17 million a year for the next 8 seasons. Craig Leopold, Bill Guerin didn't let that big fish slip away. But then contrasted right after the fact, you got McDavid signing Eichel, Kyle Connor, all these guys for not peanuts, but significantly less than $17 million a year. What do you say to the detractors out there that say the Wild overpaid for number 97?
Yeah, I think I think what I would say to detractors is the alternative. As we saw, you just mentioned those 3 guys signed, so now it's thinning out the market next summer. And if you lose Kirill Kaprizov, who are you getting? If Adrian Kempe goes to market, which I'm not convinced he's gonna, are you going to have to pay him $15 just to get him here because you're going to now have to compete against 31 other teams to get him? Same thing with Alex Tuck or Martin Necas or Artemi Panarin or something like that. So that would be what I would say. But the only other thing is I don't begrudge the Wild for doing it at all. Okay, they had to get it done. Everybody's situation is different. But I do think that it makes Kirill look, a little bit hypocritical here. The other guys were willing to play ball. And, they made their money, but they also gave more team-friendly contracts. And, and Kirill and his camp, and he's the boss of that camp, turned down a $16 million deal. Then when the Wild offered $17 million, they had the audacity to counter, and the Wild held firm there, and they gave him $17. So, I don't think it makes Kirill look overly great. And he's got to look his teammates in the eye for a long time, knowing that, he's going to be the highest paid player in the NHL. So you better deliver. But right now he's making, $10 million more than Matt Boldy, who's not that much of an inferior player to him. That's for sure. So, look, the cap's going to go up. The hope is that eventually that the market resets itself where essentially it catches up to Kirill. But I think that this definitely puts a lot of pressure on him now that he's got to, he's got to deliver. And, look, the Wild could say they have a ton of cap space still to go after big fish, but, they'd have a lot more cap space if he had taken $13 or $14 million than 17.
I've asked this question to Micheletti, to Joe, and even Brett Blakemore, and I think all 4 of us agree, setting the over-under at 45 goals and 100 points for Kaprizov. We're all taking the over with a caveat that he plays 70 games this season. Do you subscribe to this list?
Yeah, if he's healthy, he's doing that, I would think, especially if you could stay on that line. But as I mentioned, we'll see about that line too, because again, with Zuccarello out until November at least, at some point they might, especially on the road, and they got a lot of road games coming up. Have to maybe separate Boldy and him and put Boldy on the second line just to kind of even it out. But I definitely think, Kirill, if he is healthy, is got 50 goals, 100-point ability easily, especially if he gets in that 70 to 75 game range.
Couple of last ones for you. I know you got to get to the morning skate. Wild taking the ice this morning. They're in St. Louis, and they'll drop the puck on game 1 of the 82-game grind starting tonight. 6:45 pregame. Puck drops just after 7 o'clock right here on FM 100.3 The Fan. The Central Division, the Wild and the Blues are a part of it. It's going to be a dogfight once again, Michael. I look at Dallas. I look at Colorado. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot separating either of them. I think they're both going to be very good. But how do you see the Central Division shaking out?
Yeah, I think Dallas, the interesting thing about this division is I think everybody has taken a little bit of a step back, except maybe Colorado. I like that they've re-signed Brock Nelson. I think him being there a full year is going to help them, rather than transitioning for the first time, being traded in the middle of, at the deadline last year. But I think Winnipeg is not nearly as deep. I don't think Dallas is as deep, but I think they're still probably the team to beat. And I think Utah is going to be better. And I'm telling you, I know that Nashville got off to that horrible start last year, but, maybe they have a sort of a reset. Everything's about the start in this league. And last year we witnessed it with the Wild. They got off to an incredible start, were tied for the most points in the league in mid-December, and they made the playoffs on a tiebreaker, a lucky, miraculous tiebreaker scored by Eric Sinek in the final minute. Otherwise, they missed the playoffs. You got to get off to good starts in this league. The team that I'm also telling you I think is going to be pretty good is St. Louis. I look at their lineup just this morning. I think Snuggerud has been with Robert Thomas since the minute he landed in St. Louis. Has not left his side, and he looks poised to have a big year. I think Robert Thomas is going to pop as a superstar this year. Dylan Holloway, if he's healthy, could get 90 points. I mean, this is a pretty decent team. And then obviously we've seen Binnington win big games before, both in the Stanley Cup playoffs and obviously in the Four Nations last year. So I think the Blues are on the rise.
Who are you picking? I way early. We haven't even played game 1 for the Wild season, only a couple of games of the regular season under our belt. But you got the 2-time defending Cup champs in the Florida Panthers over there in the East, and I know that's your favorite team to ever grace the earth. But they're missing Sasha Barkov here for a significant amount of time. Who's your favorite to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup come next June?
I have a feeling Vegas is going to do it. I know that last night they weren't great defensively. I know Aiden Hill wasn't exactly terrific last night. They definitely blew that 5-3 lead. But Eichel and Barbashev and Marner looked incredible last night. I think Dorofeev is a star in the making, had a hat trick last night. And the other thing here, and I know fans are going to just freaking get pissed off at this, but with Petro out and his career potentially over, they get $8.8 million, the full $8.8 million in cap space. And last night they looked to me to have a blue line that is very thinned out, but now they have $8.8 million to play with. And I just think at some point we know that the boldest GM in the league, who is Kelly McCrimmon, will figure out a way to fix that situation. And now he's got the weapon to do it with that cap space. So I just think that even the product that we saw on the ice last night of Vegas, which was a pretty exciting game. That game against the Kings was tremendous. They're going to figure out a way to really fix their issues this year, and I just think they're going to be a really good team and a tough out.
I can't imagine there's more than a couple of people across the great state of hockey that don't know about The Athletic and your fine work there. They do great work on all sports, but especially hockey and especially the Minnesota Wild, led by you and Joe Smith. If they wanted to get a subscription to everyone's favorite blog, how would they get their hands on what is The Athletic and theathletic.com?
You go to theathletic.com/wild and click on a story, and you can get probably a discount even by going if you're a first-time subscriber. Or theathletic.com/Russo probably gets you in too. So really appreciate that, Kevin. Aaron Sickman wants me to tell you to check your voicemails.
Oh boy!
Apparently you never check them.
Okay, I will give that a listen.
Unless I don't understand what he's saying. He also said that you had some big meeting the other day that you're worried about.
Don't worry, but I don't know what he's talking about, and it's just fine. That's Sickman. You know what? After 25 years, I think he's gone bonkers. He's got bats in the belfry. Tell him to just concentrate, do his own job. I'll do mine, and everything will be fine.
Yeah. Keep up the good work, Blakemore. Really good job, Brett.
Thank you.
All right, enjoy skate. We'll talk to you tonight.
All right, see you, Kev.
Michael Russo of The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. Have you, Brett Blakemore, got off your wallet and gone to TheAthletic.com/Russo and got your fill of America's favorite blogger?
Well, after high praise like that, how could you not?
Without a doubt. Oh, what a guy. Let's take a break, and then I want to squeeze in Brett Blakemore's breakaways. And before we wrap up the show, we're going to hear from former Wild forward Cal Clutterbuck. He's hung up the skates. He's in front of a television camera, and he's our exclusive NHL Insider. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to hear more of your talkbacks as well. Still giving away tickets not only for Saturday when the Wild host the Columbus Blue Jackets, but Game 3 of the regular season and Monday's Game 2 of the home schedule when they host the LA Kings. Send in those talkbacks. We're giving away tickets as we roll forward on The Fan.
Before we go, the Fan and 2 men and a junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks to the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword bills for this hour. KFAN.com, keyword bills.
Hey, this is Philip Gustafson.
From the beautiful studios of St. Louis Park, Kevin Falness in for Paul Allen and Eric Nordquist this afternoon on KFAN. I should say this morning, leading into this afternoon, which is going to lead into the regular season opener for the Minnesota Wild. Tonight they'll be in St. Louis. Pregame at 6:45. Puck drops at 7 o'clock right here on FM 100.3 The Fan to talk about not only the here and now with the Minnesota Wild, but the glory days. Our good buddy Cal Clutterbuck joining us now from Long Island. Cal, it is always great to hear your voice. How are you, my friend?
I'm very, very good. I'm actually in Pittsburgh getting ready for the Isles opener tonight.
That's
Doing
right.
that on TV, so.
That's right.
I'm in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Good for you, the Steel City. How exciting is it to not only drop the puck on a brand new season? You're a guy that did it for a number of years in the National Hockey League, but a little bit different this year as a guy that's going to be behind that TV camera.
Yeah, it is different. I as I boarded the plane yesterday with the guys who are on the team and playing, and I've got a couple recently retired former teammates who have taken roles that require them to be on the plane. Sitting at the front was a little different than sitting at the card table, I got to tell you. But it's good. It's kind of nice to be kind of back into this routine of traveling. And like you said, the beginning of the season is always the most exciting time for every team and every fan of every team because, everyone has the same opportunity to go out there and try and have a great year and ultimately win a cup. So it's a very exciting time for hockey fans and players and staff alike.
Yeah, I know. We talked last spring on Beyond the Pond here, right here on FM 100.3 The Fan, about your new gig and moving on from the playing days, hanging up the skates and doing this TV thing. Are you enjoying it? And I guess it's still very early, so everything's fun when you do it once. But now that you're getting into the routine, are you digging the process? I know what it's like on the radio side, and it's a lot more relaxed. TV, there's a lot of people talking in your ear. You love to comb your hair, but you got to comb your hair, wear makeup, and all that stuff. Are you enjoying everything that goes into the process of being on television?
Yeah, I am. I think there is a lot, but what was good for me is I kind of took a guest appearance at the home opener last year for the Islanders, just kind of not expecting anything. So I wasn't really trying to do well. So I've kind of maintained that attitude and just, for me, I enjoy watching the game, talking about the game, and for me, that's kind of what it really is. And the more time you spend on TV and getting prepared, it gets a little easier. But I just enjoy being able to, relay a little bit of information that I may have from my years of experience to, an Islander fan base or a fan base, a visiting fan base that might be listening to the game. And I like just being able to point things out to them that they might not otherwise see or might not otherwise understand. And I really enjoy that part of the job, and I've got a great crew that I work with at MSG Networks. They're, everything we do is pretty streamlined, and we don't spend too much time on things that don't require too much time. So it's been a really fun process for me, and just being able to kind of stay in the game. And I think I underestimated how much I would miss the routine in the game when I first decided to hang him up, and this has been a great sort of filler for me, a transition into what is now becoming a second career. But all of it put together just seems to be working at the moment, and I'm going to keep doing it until I lose the joy, as they say, and then we'll look for something else. But at the moment, I'm really enjoying it.
Talking to former Wild forward Cal Clutterbuck, if you can believe it, a third-round pick by the Wild back in 2006. 6 seasons with the Minnesota Wild from 07 to 13, but 17 years total in the National Hockey League. You flourished. You were great here in Minnesota, but what you did there on Long Island was unbelievable, the career that you were able to put together. I want to talk about your memories and even talk about what's going on there in the Eastern Conference with your beloved Islanders here in a moment, but is tonight going to be especially difficult when they drop the puck on a new season? It's one thing to hang up the skates and go through all that emotions, but there's something special about opening night. And as a player, it takes on a whole nother meaning. You're not going to be a part of that in the same way that you've been for so many years. How tough is that going to be to swallow when you're in the broadcast booth, instead of there on the red line?
Yeah, it's kind of justification for me that I made the decision at the right time. I'm totally fine with it. I'm excited to be a part of it in a different way. I think if I was just sitting at home watching, I might feel a little more of that. But I really think that, I did what I could while I was playing, and it was probably time. And between that and the opportunities that are presented to you when your contract comes up after 17 years, you kind of, you look at all the things that go into the opening day of the season, all the summer training, the training camp, all the difficult things that you have to do. I was in my head just ready to go and take a break. And so it's exciting for me here. And on Long Island right now, it's an exciting fresh start. Obviously, Lou Lamoriello is no longer here, and Matthew Darche comes in, and Matthew Schaefer. And really, over the course of the summer, there was a lot that happened with the Islanders that doesn't normally happen in summers, especially when, a team has missed the playoffs and in a long off season. Usually it gets pretty boring, but there was a lot going on here. So it's an exciting time for Islander fans, and Matthew Schaefer making his debut tonight. He's been amazing through the preseason, so very excited to be able to be a part of that call tonight.
Yeah, what'd you see from the number one overall pick in Matthew Schaefer? I know the upside looks tremendous, unbelievable future for this kid. How do you think he's going to be as he splashes onto the NHL scene?
Well, he has a level of maturity. I think it's been well documented. That is unlike most 18-year-old kids, and his abilities seem to match. His confidence on the ice kind of carries through off the ice. So his ability to, and his eagerness to learn from not only the guys around him, but the guys who are no longer playing. I know he talks to Matt Martin a lot. Him and I have had a couple conversations. He's just a really eager kid, and a lot of kids who are in that position with that much attention sometimes don't have the same sort of mentality of this is my first step. I'm excited to be here, but I need to, take in information. I want to learn. I want to learn how to be. And, he just has that future captain sort of personality, and his on-ice abilities are pretty evident. I think NHL fans will get to notice him pretty quickly. His skating ability is elite. He's a defenseman, but he loves getting up the ice. I think the thing I love about him the most is when he makes a D-to-D pass in the neutral zone, he's on his horse, and he's sometimes the first guy in the forecheck. Probably he's going to take some harnessing to figure out when the right time is and when it isn't. But I think for a young guy, for him to have the confidence to be able to go up there and get up in the rush, and he's really going to create a look that the Islanders haven't had from the back end in a very long time, probably since the Minnesota native Nick Leddy days, where Nick could be a one-man breakout and get up and create odd-man rushes with his speed and still be the first guy back. And similar to Brent Burns when he was first a young kid playing defense, he was a forward and a defenseman, so he had a tendency to get up there and be involved. And I think that just the NHL these days is such a five-man offense league that you need defensemen that can skate, you need defensemen who can make plays, and you need guys who are willing to get up there and have the ability to recover if things don't work out. So he has all those things, and I'm sure he's going to make his mistakes like anybody does, but I think his ability and his confidence are enough so that the Islanders are going to be able to put up with those mistakes, especially early on.
Dude, you better hope your buddy Biz Nasty, that you never lose the joy. You're a natural. This is unbelievable. You were playing 2 minutes ago, and here you are. You're ready to take down Paul Bissonnette there on the on the national stage. You're a natural at this thing.
Well, I do love the game, and I spent years while I was playing studying it because I was put in a different role in New York than I probably was on the trajectory for in Minnesota, and I really leaned into it. I got lucky. I mean, I had two line mates that were not only great friends, but we were such a great fit as a line, and I really, the three of us kind of took it upon ourselves to add a dynamic to that Islander team that a lot of teams didn't have, and in doing so, I think we've kind of really kind of revolutionized the way people looked at their fourth lines. We still had a lot of physicality, and Marty obviously was able to take care of business, in the fisticuff side of things. But we were able to go out there and play against other teams' good players and really make it difficult on them and allow our best players to go out there and play against, take offensive chances playing against lines who weren't as productive offensively and maybe weren't as talented. So that really gave us an advantage, and in doing so, you really learn the nuances of the game. I had a couple great coaches along the way, and I was always just a detailed person, and I think that's really why I was able to play for as long as I did, because I really thought about, I was very thoughtful about the way that I would go out there and play the game, and as much as people think I was just kind of a run around body checker, which I probably was in Minnesota, I really I took some time to learn the game on a deeper level, and I really just I like thinking about the game and talking about it, and so hopefully I'm going to have a platform to do it for years to come.
Yeah, good for you. You're off to an amazing start of your media career. 17 seasons in the National Hockey League. That doesn't happen by accident, and it's awesome to think that it started here in Minnesota. Real quick to the Eastern Conference. We like to think of the Central Division as the toughest division in hockey, but then I look over at the Metropolitan Division where your Islanders reside, and I know that the expectations are great for your team coming into this season. But when I look at, they got to deal with an up-and-comer like the New Jersey Devils, the Carolina Hurricanes, which are a beast every year. The Capitals still with Ovechkin, the New York Rangers, they're always going to be a tough beat. And then some of the other teams that are coming through there, I mean, the Penguins still have Sidney Crosby. You got the Flyers there, the Blue Jackets. That is a tough division. And as much as we like to talk about the Central, the Metro is not an easy target either.
No, I think you're right about the Central. I think it's developed into the premier division, and the Metropolitan was for years. When I was, in the meat of my Islander career, the Metropolitan division was as tough as you're going to get. But what the benefit of playing in a good division, and if not the best division in hockey, is that you need to you spend the regular season playing almost what people would call playoff hockey, or else you don't make the playoffs. And so what happens is over the course of the year, you get better, and you get better quicker. And if you don't get your chance at the playoffs. So when the playoffs do come, those divisions are always more prepared, and you see those teams kind of making long runs. And that's how it was for us in the Metro. I just really enjoyed the level of competition. And then on top of that, when you go play teams in other divisions, potentially teams that are a little weaker, you're able to win those games, and a lot of times win them convincingly, and have what we used to call low stress, no doubters in the league. If you can just get to that point, then you're going to have a really easy time making the playoffs. So in a lot of ways, a tough division is a good thing for a team, especially a team that has the ability to compete in that division. So I think it's a good thing. And, the Metro being what it is, it's not what it used to be, but there are some teams sort of making their way through. The Carolina Hurricanes, obviously very good year over year. The New Jersey Devils really depends on if they can stay healthy. They've had issues with injuries, and when they're not injured, they've had great seasons, 100-point seasons with the crew they have there. And the Islanders and the Penguins and a couple of these teams, Washington did it last year. I think they did a really good job of revamping with their old veterans, injecting some youth and some speed in their lineup. They had a lot of success with that. Obviously riding the coattails of Ovi's magical run last year towards 895, but I think for the Islanders, the thought process is now how do we take the guys who are in their prime and marry them with the young guys that we've been able to pick up through the draft and free agent signings and formulate a team that's going to compete in this division.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it all develops there in the Eastern Conference. The focus over here is about the Western Conference and the Wild heading into game number 1 tonight in St. Louis. 17 years in the National Hockey League. Again, we're talking to former Wild forward, former Wild draft pick, Cal Clutterbuck. 17 years in the NHL, the bulk of it there with the New York Islanders. But 6 glorious seasons began your career here in Minnesota from 2007 to 2013. Had you on last spring, had you recount a little bit of that. But as we enter the 25th season of Minnesota Wild hockey, tell me there's not a special place in your heart for when you donned the ice here at what was then XL Energy Center.
Yeah, I mean, what a great place to start a career. I look back on those years with a lot of fondness. I love my time there. I wish I could have played there a little longer. It's just a great place to live, first and foremost. And that hockey team, as you know, is supported so well. And so honestly, I think you go around to different markets and you see teams that go through years where they're struggling a little bit for a couple of years and the fan base starts to disappear a little bit. The rink isn't as full. That just wasn't the case there. And I just loved the energy that building brought, and it brought out a lot of energy in me. And I love being able to go out there and make people cheer and give them something that, that they can enjoy. I was going to go out there and work as hard as I could and try and bang some bodies and score some goals and, just play hard. And I really enjoyed my time there when I got drafted there and finally made the team. I really felt like I was going to be there for my whole career. Obviously that didn't work out, but 25 years of Minnesota Wild hockey, I can't, where does the time go? I felt like it was just still an expansion franchise. Had that feeling when I moved in there, but the team was pretty good. And then, we had a couple of years where we didn't make the playoffs, and then I was out. But it's really is a great place, and everybody that's played there since and has played there before me, as I feel, shares my sentiment. So hopefully it's a great 25th anniversary season. And I was talking to our old buddy Aaron Sickman. I'm thinking about maybe coming out there for one of those games, one of the alumni games, and maybe pop my head in there and see some old faces and try and enjoy a night or two.
I hope you do. This coming weekend, Saturday night, the inaugural coaching staff is going to be here. Jacques Lemaire, Doug Risebrough from the management side, Mario Tremblay, Mike Ramsey, Bob Mason. They're dropping the puck on game number 1 of the home season, and it'll be cool to see those faces. I can't wait to see yours. You're in Minnesota. You got to stop by, and we'll have you on the air with myself and Tom Reed, and hopefully we can make that happen.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love that.
All right, Clutter, enjoy the game tonight. Good luck in Pittsburgh. Good luck this season. I hope they put your makeup on right and you get that hair combed just perfectly.
Oh, I do all that myself, but you know that. I'm not letting anybody touch his face with his hair.
Go get him. Thanks for doing this. We'll talk soon.
All right, bud.
There he is, the great Cal Clutterbuck. Oh, I really wanted to get into the Eric Belanger story when he and Derek Bugard filled his car with styrofoam peanuts. I've never flat out asked him about it, and I wanted to see how far down that road he'd go, but I'm out of time. I got to take a quick break, and then we'll squeeze in Brett Blakemore's breakaways till the top, and we'll reward another couple of tickets to the home opener Saturday when the Wild host the Blue Jackets. But tonight, it's game number 1 of the regular season coming up from St. Louis. You'll hear all the action on The Fan.
I'm Kirill Kaprizov, and you're listening to The Fan.
Horrible clock management, but hopefully the last 3 hours make up for this sprint to the finish. We had a blast. We talked to Cal Clutterbuck, Michael Russo, Joe O'Donnell, Pat Micheletti, and a bunch of other folks in between. We also gave away a bunch of tickets. You might be getting a text from me. You may have already got it for a pair of tickets for the home opener come Saturday when the Wild host the Columbus Blue Jackets. Hopefully you won those tickets. If you didn't, wild.com/tickets to get yours. And at the very least, hopefully you're on the air tonight with us at 6:45 pregame for game number 1. Duckies and bunnies, rainbows and unicorns. The future is bright, and it starts tonight in St. Louis. Brett Blakemore, thank you for your time. Good luck the rest of the day, and thanks for listening to KFAN.
podcast today's Paul Allen Show or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.